What is up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are having a great time out there, kicking this off the right way on a lovely it's Thursday evening over there. It's Friday here in Korea. So this is my TGIF. Thank God it's Friday, and thank God that we get to talk about how Disney is going to be blown out of the water. But I am here and going to be joined by all my guests here in a second. But appreciate y'all. First of all, first and foremost, appreciate the OGs in the chat, everybody out here in the base legal mindset, the best community on the internet, which if you're not part of, you should consider joining. As always, I'm Andrew Esquire, Florida attorney, actual practicing attorney who is specialized in special district law, real property. This is my area. This is my zone. This is my Sparta. We're about to kick some Disney Persians into a pit. It's going to be fun today. But let me just say what's up, some people in the chat here. Andrew F., what's up? Deha, what's up? Danielle, good to see all the members here waiting, ready to go. Rumble's acting up today, so we are just on YouTube and on Locals. So this will be a YouTube and Locals kind of exclusive thing. But first and foremost, I want to introduce my first guest, who really isn't so much of a guest. He's really a guy who's going to be in front. I'm putting him on screen today. But that is my good friend, my hombre, if you will, Mike, Mexican Iron Man. What's up, brother?
I thought I was staying in the kitchen and making enchiladas tonight.
No, not tonight. Not tonight. You're front of the house. You put on the Disney ears, and we are putting you out there, out front. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. We got you, brother.
Oh, well, hold on. I just in case.
Are you ready? All right. Yeah. Now we're good.
Now we're good.
Now we're good. We're good
right,
now. We're good now. Smash a like button for the sombrero. S is in the chat. S is in the chat for the sombrero. Good to see you, Mike. I know the team over there, WW Pro and Valiant, they're wrapping and coming over here. And a little bit of logistics today, guys. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to run this show for exactly 2 hours and 30 minutes. We're going to have a lot to talk about. There's a lot to get into with this. We're going to be able to talk about it for quite a while and chop it up. I created this morning, right before the show, a short version that's going to be the TLDR version of this video that I'm going to set to I set it to live premiere exactly after this show airs. So if you guys hang out, you just hang out in the chat, you'll get redirected to that. I'll be with you guys in the live chat. If you guys have any questions about anything during that, I can answer it in the chat after this video. So that's going to be after, and that's going to be the best video to share with everybody. Like if they've only got 6 minutes and they need to understand this issue, you can take that video, you can take it and you can share it out with them. They may not want to watch a 2.5 hour stream. That's going to be a long stream for them, but they can view the 6 minute video. So stick around for that. It'll redirect into that, but you might see a notice pop up. You may get a notification around 8 p.m. for you guys, 9 a.m. for me, 8 p.m. for you guys. You may get a notification of another video. Don't worry. That's the premiere for afterwards. It's a very short 6 minute clip that's going to give you all the bullet points. But today we're going deeper than the bullet points. And I've been excited for this. I mean,
it is an exciting topic. You're the right guy for this topic. Yeah. And I got my start in when I left Stanford. My first job was in municipal finance. I worked for the mayor of San Jose. I was in the budget and accounting and tax office. And I was in the particular unit where I was interfacing with the redevelopment agency and all of the capital improvement projects. So whether it was Adobe, early work on the stadium back in the day that ended up becoming the pavilion, which is where the Sharks play. Right. So things that related to county tax districts, tax incentives, city, municipal, county is right up my wheelhouse because that was the first job that I had. And from there, I later went on to work for ExxonMobil, corporate finance, tax, accounting. Then now I have my own firm. But my original start way back in the day was in municipal, city, county finance and interfacing with certainly the politicians that we had to deal with, local assembly people, state senators, county tax assessors, and all that. So this stuff is very, very much up my wheelhouse and very fascinating to me.
Yeah, and you're the perfect guy for it. You know what's funny? After you came on an interview with me, Mike, I had folks that like looked you up because you didn't, you don't really hide yourself, and they're like, this guy's actually legit. Like he's done legitimate work for legitimate people, and because I think a lot of people they look over here on YouTube and they think that we're a bunch of jokers who have like no background whatsoever. It's like, no, actually, there's some very smart, educated people who have a serious work background, who have serious like focus. And when we often get on YouTube for things we're really passionate about. right? For things we really care about. So the fact that you've done municipal finance and like you know about it means you've heard about things like, hey, this has to be a public purpose, right?
Yes.
Like,
yeah. I mean, I would be sent by the mayor's office because I was on the budget, tax, finance to hearings. I mean, I've been in city council hearings, county board of the committee hearings, and planning commissions and zoning commissions, and I mean, all the time. Way back in the day. And so when they talk about the process serving notice, I remember when we wanted to lead an initiative about having a special, what was it? It was going to be a special tax incentive, and we provide notice to all of the residents in this one unincorporated area in North San Jose that wasn't part of the city of San Jose, but it was kind of there, and it was in the county, and we had to do notice. I remember we forgot to do that, and the mayor called all of us, and we brought in all these contractors and took over the first floor of City Hall, the huge cafeteria, and we were like literally licking, and not licking them with like this, but with the little water thing. Close the envelopes, folding, boom, folding, boom, handing them in the mailboxes and getting them out, because if we didn't serve notice within 7 days or 10, no, I'm sorry, it was like 10 days or something of the date that we figured out, then we couldn't move forward with the vote that they wanted, because we couldn't give notice out. So when I saw something like that pop up recently, I'm like, oh my God, been there, done that.
It's a huge issue, and that's one thing. Honestly,
literally, Andrew, the city attorney told us if we didn't get notice out in the mail with postmarks and receipts from the vote, like that, literally we could not move forward with the vote on the tax incentive initiative that we were going to do in the redevelopment agency.
And this is huge, guys. This is massive. What Mike just said. Understand this. In cities, counties, governments, they have very, very, very specific ways they have to notify you that something is happening. If they don't, to the T, do this, they are fucked. And this is something I was doing as well when I would have these meetings for special districts, because once again, this is what I did in Florida. We had very specific ways we had to put it out. For some things, you could put it in the back of the magazine, like the back of the newspaper in the classifieds. But some things, Mike, you actually had to, in Florida, for special districts, you have to put in the front. You have to put in the major section. You cannot tuck it back in the legal ads, right? And if you don't follow that to the T, what you did is completely invalid. It is 100%
like and that's funny that you mentioned that. I remember we asked, can we just put an ad out in the Mercury News? And the city attorney was like, nope, we're going to mail notice out to everybody so that they can't say that they weren't notified. I mean, because she says we could get a legal challenge if someone didn't read the paper. They went up, but was about. Oh God, I literally remember calling up, and it was basically people that worked on the campaign, and we basically just called it was an all hands on deck. We're in the cafeteria, literally Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, getting all this crap out by Monday.
But that's how it works. That's how it gets done. Like that's what you do when you're in this field, when you're in this ball game. And we're going to get into that today. We're going to get into all the actions about this, but I'm glad, by the way, the Raiders from WW Pro are here. And so is the man, the myth, the legend, the anonymous voice that gives you all the best takes on Disney. WW Pro. What's up, brother?
Well, it's nice to be here. I'm glad to know that I am the voice of anonymity, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. A voice made for anonymity and a face made for avatars.
That's right. Exactly. 2-hour show in the books, in the can, and happy to hop over here to yours now and discuss this 37 square mile homeowners association that seems to not be panning out exactly like the mouse anticipated.
No, this is much different. This is far different than the mouse anticipated. And there's really two things we got to get into today that we're going to kind of break down. They're split issues. We're going to get into both of them. Originally, to be fair, guys, this stream was actually called the district. It was going to be talking about the district nullifying all of Disney's actions, right? So I was going to talk about that because they were doing that at their March 26th board meeting. That's actually what happened. But the superseding event of them filing a lawsuit, which, by the way, is entirely to take interest and attention off of the district's actions, right? It's entirely to get us reading this. So what I'm doing today is not falling into Disney's frame, and we're going to cover both because one is in reaction to the other. So without understanding, if you do not understand why what Disney did is invalid, you do not understand why they had, out of desperation, to file the lawsuit, right? One led to another directly. And that's been buried by the mainstream media, buried by the news. But on channels like my channel, and I know as well on your channel, WW Pro, good friend Valiant, he said as well, we're going to cover the whole angle, right? That's what you get on our channels. That's what I like to say, right? I mean, is that pretty fair, Pro?
Oh, I think it's totally fair. And I'm also curious about your position as to standing. This is what is so fascinating to me.
Sure.
Is that Disney seems to be declaring that they and the Reedy Creek Improvement District, now dissolved, are essentially one and the same. And if that is the case, then all of the obligations and debts that would be handed to the Reedy Creek Improvement District seem to be on Disney should this thing go south. Do you think they can even get into the court system, or do you think, even with friendly territory in Tallahassee, do you think that perhaps they will be thrown out and said, you're not in standing here? You're not Reedy Creek Improvement District.
Sure. So let's actually start with just those basic questions. And there's a lot of reasons why it's invalid, guys. This is why it's going to be a long stream today. So strap in and strap up. But the first thing to understand is the lawsuit that was filed by Disney was not filed in Tallahassee. It was filed with the feds. And what I mean by that is this is not a state case. This is a federal case. Disney is scared shitless to file in Florida court. This is a major thing. This is a huge point. And this is exactly why they constructed this whole complaint. It's constructed to get around the substance of the law with procedural fuckery. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is my full disclosure. I am a specialist in real property and special districts. I am not a specialist in procedural fuckery. Okay? So that is not my thing. That's not what I did. I didn't play games. I got deals done and I made money flow, right? I laid the pipe. I laid the pavement. That's what I did. But even just not being a specialist in procedural fuckery, it's clear to any lawyer, right, that this is procedurally fucked, because every lawyer who knows about real property knows property is a state issue. It is quintessentially a state issue. States deal with real property wildly differently. Florida and California deal with property very differently. For example, states like Louisiana, you've got old French Napoleonic law that applies to property. Wildly different state to state to state. And at its core, this is really a property issue. This is about property. Special districts are dealing with real estate boundaries. This is a property law issue. They try to frame this as a contracts issue. We'll get into that and all the flaws with that argument.
Okay. So explain that to me, though, Andrew, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Are they framing this as a contracts issue, or are they framing it as a free speech First Amendment issue, them being a corporation, or is it both?
It is both. So one thing that can happen in a lawsuit, and I'm so glad you brought that up, WW Pro, is you can have multiple claims, multiple counts. So if we look at what they're alleging here, and this is the lawsuit, it is 77 pages, all of which I read on my flight back to Seoul from Bangkok. I was flying back. I read the entire thing on my phone.
What was the movie on the flight?
The movie was Disney's Gonna Get Fucked.
I was just wondering if you missed out on anything important. Sounds like it was one and the same.
Yes. The sequel is coming very soon. So you can see down here with factual background, and we're going to go through that, and I'm going to rebut that. We'll do some skimming because some of it is just bitching about DeSantis and saying mean tweets and stuff like that. But we're going to go through all that factual background. Don't worry about that. But to answer your question, there are 5 causes of action. 2 of them are essentially the same thing. So the first one is a contracts clause violation. Hope you guys can see that. You guys can see that all right, WW Pro?
Yep, we got it.
You read it. Okay.
Looking
so first one is contracts clause. So there you go. That's the contracts issue. Then they're going to try to argue takings. Don't worry. I'm going to explain to you what a taking is. I'm going to explain to you eminent domain. I'm going to explain to you all that. Don't worry. Professors in the house. Then they're arguing due process, right? So they're saying that their due process has been violated. Also, once again, ridiculous, but we're going to walk through it. In the last one, the 4th and 5th, they argue First Amendment. So this is what I would call the desperation kitchen sink approach.
Yes,
which is
spaghetti on the wall approach.
spaghetti on the wall and a little bit of inside lawyer magic. This is something I do know. They typically try to start with what they perceive as the strongest argument and move to the weakest argument. So I want to point out that the fact that their own lawyers, Disney's own lawyers, chose to structure this with the First Amendment claims at the end means that is their weakest argument. And everybody out there simping for Disney and saying, oh, the First Amendment argument, their own lawyers are telling you through just the structure here that that is a shit argument. They're saying this is our most shit argument. That's what that is when you see that part of the structure. So just understand that. Do not worry. We are going to get to all of these causes of action. But first, let me give you some history, because this is, of course, Disney gives their factual history. But of course, as we know, WW Pro, is Disney's versions of the facts, are they often accurate?
No, they seem to be not even in the interest of their own company sometimes. They seem to be ideologically driven. And in the case of what we're seeing right now, it seems to me that Robert Iger was so desperate to get back into the captain's chair over at Disney that he put them in an untenable position, wanting Bob Chapek, then CEO, to step into this highly political, highly divisive spot. And now the cleanup begins. And you just have to wonder, was it worth it? Was it worth getting rid of Bob Chapek to have Disney now be in this position where what we're discussing, and you're absolutely right about this gumming up the process, perhaps trying to run out the clock on DeSantis being in Florida. But the reason that they're so desperate to do this, throw an anything that sticks scenario on the wall, is simply because this is a billions of dollars issue. This is not millions. This is billions. And as you have said, it could go even higher than that.
Yes, they absolutely could. This absolutely can have the impact over the years against Disney. Understand, guys, this battle is it's a war, and it is going to cost them billions. And ultimately, let's pull back. Let's pull back even from the lawsuit. A single corporation is not going to be able to, in the long run, beat a state. From just in terms of the amount of gravity that the state can bring to bear, a single corporation is not going to be able to carve out a piece of land and say, this is our fief, we shall do whatever the fuck we want on it. That's just not something that's going to happen from a holistic standpoint, right? So when Disney takes that approach as a corporation, just that is their stance, right? We're going to do whatever we want over here. That's not going to fly in the long run, right? And just in the long run, it doesn't work if you're operating in a state that you don't want to operate in. But correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys may know these numbers better than I do. Mike, I know you're a numbers guy. Didn't Disney just move a bunch of employees, especially during the pandemic, from California to Florida? Am I correct or incorrect about that? Was that something that happened?
Well, the entire move that was supposed to happen did not happen in the full, the breadth, neither the breadth or the depth of the scope of that project happened. That the way it was supposed to happen. And in fact, one of the things that did happen is that they didn't want to go. I mean, the California employees did not want to go. They
revolted.
They literally revolted, and much of there is press coverage. We've covered it on either Midnight Edge After Dark or Midnight Edge in the Morning. I can't remember, but I know that we've talked about it over on those channels. But the thing is that those people didn't want to go. I actually have a friend that works in Burbank that I worked with years ago, and he told me he was ready to go, but the overall feeling was they didn't want to go, and a lot of that angst, a lot of that rejection of the Florida political framework, the wanting to stay in California and, this not wanting to go to a red state, that really fueled a lot of the rebellion, whether it was the Disney, protests or, being political. A lot of it really was about that. I mean, it may be couched in the, in the parental rights bill. The parental rights bill might be that beacon, that sort of spinning that we're all focusing on. But a lot of the angst came from the fact that they were essentially going to move lots of people over. And to me, it's a little bit comical because a lot of the people who bitched about that now are getting let go in this round.
Now getting let go. And that's exactly it. That was the choice. It's like, we can afford to keep you in Florida. We can't afford to pay you in California. Right. And this is the mindset. But I mean, Mike, you're a Californian yourself. I mean, do you?
I
like,
still
you
have 60% of my client base are corporations. All my clients are business owners. 60% of all my clients, I have clients in 4 time zones, but 60% of them are still in California. Go ahead.
And do you see that? Do you see that California mindset where they just? And I've seen this, but I want to know if you see this, where they are just terrified of red state. They're terrified of Texas.
Yeah.
They're terrified of Florida. They think that if you go there, you're going to die. You're going to be burnt alive. I mean, like horrible things are going on. I mean,
while the wildfires rage outside their homes.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in South Carolina, right? I mean, people.
I'm in South Carolina.
You,
Look, I'm going to answer your question in 2 ways. Number one, I've got a client right now that has told me that he wants to move his business. This is the three of my largest clients. One's in Texas, one's here in South Carolina. My third largest client, this is a guy who he's been my client since 2006. Since 2006. He has big customers, 24-hour fitness. He's all over the country, multi-million-dollar a year business, lots of employees, owns 3 commercial buildings. He wants to go. He's decided he's going to go to Northern California. Yet, getting him to actual leave and like close on the house, make the offer, renegotiate. It's like watching him go through the psychological drama, even though he's committed. It reminds me of myself, because even myself, Andrew, when I decided I'd had enough with California, I mean, I had to basically shut down my operation, downsize, and come. And I didn't know what I was going to find out here, because the stories are just so horrific. Now you take that and you put that mentality inside of a company like Disney. Holy crap. And it's the fear of the unknown. Of course, then you get out to a place here into the South, red state, and I've never experienced so much freedom. I've never experienced such low taxes. Jesus Christ, the gas price I pay is low. I mean, Andrew, my mom came to the store and she saw how much a carton of eggs cost here in South Carolina. She's like, oh my God, I want to buy a bunch of them and ship them back to California. My mom.
She's gonna get hit with a customs duty coming into California. Speaking of a customs duty, we got a Bayou customs duty here coming in. We're gonna have a little bit of the coon-ass tax, and that is my good friend, Valiant Renegade. Good to see you, brother.
What's up? How y'all doing? I just walked in the door. So I'm glad you sent it to me, because I'm like, okay, I got about 30 minutes before Andrew's show starts. And I'm like, I had it marked because last night I looked, it said 7 p.m. Central in my local time. I'm like, what the hell happened? So anyway, no.
You're good. And we're going to go for 2 hours exactly. And gentlemen, just so you know, I said it once before, but I'll say it again. I have a little bit of a structure here. So obviously, WW Pro was nice enough to raid and come over here. After this stops, we're going to go exactly another 2 hours. So 2 hours and 30 minutes full. After this stream is over, I have a short video that's going to be, you guys are going to go get to check out, which is the bullet points on why they're going to lose the case, which is for everybody to share out. So if you can get that video, it's called Why Disney Will Lose. Share that, clip it, get it on social media. That's going to be you can just respond with that to everybody who needs to know about this. This longer stream, they may not want to watch us going on for 2.5 hours, but you can definitely share that out. So that's going to be after this stream itself. So that said, let me just jump right back to it. So Valiant. Mm-hmm. Did you understand? Did you know? Because obviously you knew about the lawsuit. You've already dropped a video on it, right? Mm-hmm. But did you also know about the board meeting that was going on the 26th? Were you aware of that?
Yeah. I mean, because they dropped the lawsuit. They waited for the board to meet, have the vote to veto what the old Reedy Creek board had done to turn the property over to Disney, and then 10 minutes later they filed the lawsuit. I mean, they were waiting for it. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes. In fact, I'm talking about this one. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but now it's so funny how this works. So Florida has these things called sunshine laws. We have these things called they're transparency laws, and they're laws that are meant so that the public gets to see every public meeting. Isn't that a nice thing, right? Isn't that great?
You mean like mailing perhaps notices to landowners? Is that part of that?
Yeah. They do that when there's certain types of public hearings. And let me be very clear. When there's certain types of public hearings, they have to mail a notice to everybody. But when it's a regular meeting, they don't, right? So if it's a regular meeting, they don't have to mail it. But for certain types of things, very specific things that may involve large updates to that land and how it's used. Yeah,
I feel like we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
You mean even double wides on cul-de-sacs, right?
Yes, even double wides on cul-de-sacs have to get those notices. So right here, you've got their meeting. They posted this online. And I want to say one thing else too. And this is a huge shout out to this because almost nobody does this. And this is far more transparent than probably anybody. They actually now are with us. So the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, they're now YouTubers. Let's show you this right now. They have a YouTube channel, right, which almost nobody is using to drop their meetings. You can see their entire meetings here from 1 day ago and 8 days ago online. Now, I will say, look, guys, this is my area of specialty. I literally would be the attorney at these meetings. In fact, there's still video online of me at many of these public meetings, right? They're boring as shit. And I'm going to give you the TLDR version because I was going to play the video. It's kind of slow. It's kind of not exciting. So I'm going to summarize it more for you. But if you want the whole thing, these specific meetings are good to watch because they deal with the Disney drama. So both the stream from 8 days ago, 1 day ago for the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, you know, they got comments off because of the government. And by the way government social media works is you have to maintain all things as public records. So even comments on your YouTube videos, you are required to maintain as public records.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did Reedy Creek have a YouTube page with all their meetings?
Hell no, they did not. Hell no. Are you kidding me? You know how deeply buried their information was?
I was just asking because they're so transparent.
Yeah. So let me just tell you this. This is how Reedy Creek meetings would go down, right? They have this very beautiful glass building. I don't know if you ever have you guys seen it in Disney when you've driven through ever? Have you ever seen the glass?
You're talking about Disney Springs, correct?
Yeah, it's by Disney Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly right, Pro.
I've seen pictures of the building. I've never driven past. Yeah.
Okay, so let me see if I can pull it up. But in this very beautiful building, right, there's people working inside of this building. And inside of this building, here's this.
While you're looking for it, Andrew, it's also quite the building because I don't know of anywhere else where two cities and a special district all hold their same meetings back to back. It's incredible.
Well, a lot of times special districts are so small that they actually have to use other people's facilities, right? So they'll use the county facilities or the library or whatever else, the public library to meet because they're very small. They typically are, kind of tiny. But oftentimes if they've got, let's say, a clubhouse or something, they'll use that. I represented a lot of the special. Actually, sorry, let me be clear. I represented almost all of the special districts around Walt Disney World. So when we're talking about Celebration, Reunion, all the ones down there, south of that Mystic Dunes, all those special districts, my clients, my former clients.
But did all those special districts have the same residents and the same members on every board, like RCID and Bay Lake and Lake Buena Vista?
Same secretary even.
That's a no. So when you walk in here, right? You're going to see a bunch of staff. If you want to go to the meeting, you've got to actually go up and back. It's not like you just walk in and you're in the room. You would have to ask somebody, hey, where's the meeting? And they could just look at you and be like, what meeting? You know what I mean? Like at that point, they probably wouldn't even know. The staff might not even know there's a meeting going on.
That's when you say, "Oh, I'm from the trailer just north of here, actually." It's room 2F. That's
in
right.
the DeSantis derangement syndrome conference room.
Does your audience, are they fully aware of what we're talking about when we make the mobile home and the trailer jokes? Do they know what we're referring to with Disney World?
Let's clarify that real quick, because when they talk about these trailer parks, right, and these mobile homes, what they're talking about is a very specific area. In fact, do you want to explain that, WW Pro? I'll let you take that.
Sure. So there are two cities, and I put those cities in quotation marks. I call them pseudo cities. Those cities are Lake Buena Vista and Bay Lake. So two lake-named cities. And when Disney World was originally set up, Walt Disney himself, he had a vision in which he wanted to have cities. It was not just a theme park resort. If you think about the theme park now called Epcot, that was the experimental prototype city of tomorrow. That was originally supposed to be a real city, not a giant golf ball. But at some point after his death, the company determined that running cities was hard, and they didn't want to do it. But they still wanted government power, because government power is good. And so to maintain a Vatican City in Central Florida, they decided that they would set up two mobile home parks hidden away from everybody to see. And then they would determine who would live inside of those mobile homes. Disney would continue to be the sole landowner, And then by the virtue of the fact they selected who would go in the mobile homes, they would then have full control over these cities without actually having cities. And then those cities would control the special district known as Reedy Creek Improvement District. Thus, Disney was granted governmental powers that are unlike anything else in the country without even having to have a single permanent structure on site for citizens to live within.
So let's get this straight. Disney was for decades running a government solely under its control, only Disney voting everybody in, and now they're crying about Ron DeSantis appointing a board?
Andrew, I've just realized why all of those Disney employees were so terrified of being moved to Florida.
Why?
They thought they were going to have to bunk up in the double wides. That's what was happening.
Wow.
That's very, very true. And let me give one thing here that's very true. I want to say thank you to all the new members. I know a lot of you guys are subscribing, being part of the RPG Replay Gang or Base Legal Mindset. So thank you. Shout out to Scott Westbrook. Get everybody here. Ike Brovlovsky, Scott Westbrook, Mr. Buttcracker Media, and Jatari Hime. Appreciate all you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And as for the super chats, what I want to do is I want to get all those at certain points. So after we transition, after we finish talking about the district, before we talk about the lawsuit, I'll get all those super chats. So I am coming to them. I'm collecting them. They will be read. Do not worry. I'm not Valiant Renegade. I don't take forever to get to my super chats. I've got a system.
Wait a minute.
This is
the show's producers right up there.
Bro,
He's not working.
It's like herding cats on that channel. Legal.
Cajun cats.
I understand. So let's jump right into this. So here's the agenda. And this, guys, make no mistake, this is what nobody is talking about. I've not seen anybody go into this. This is the real reason why they're butthurt. And nobody is talking about it because, frankly, they don't understand special districts. They don't understand the business of special districts and how the business gets done. A lot of this business is done in quiet. Frankly, these meetings are usually very poorly attended. Not many people usually go to these, yet very important things can happen for your local government, for your area. If there's a special district that's covering where you live, you should attend some of those meetings sometimes because often there's very important things going down, particularly the budget. If there's ever a budget that's passed or anything else, attend those. And in Florida, this is what the agenda looks like. I would look at dozens of these agendas per week and attend 6-7 meetings a week. When I was down there in Florida. So they do a call to order. They do a pledge of allegiance, very standard, right? For most government meetings that are not gone full California. And then you go into public comment, which is where the public can stand up and say whatever they want, right? Usually there's a time limit, a reasonable time limit, but they let everybody say whatever they want. And then it goes into the action items. So that here they're talking about the proposed budget, the permitting report, management report, general counsel reports. These are very standard reports. By the way, when I was there, I would have reports as where I would get my attorney's report. So I was never representing these guys. But once again, all these special district agendas look very the same. This is very much what I would be doing when I was a special district counsel. And then look here, 8.1. Let's zoom in here and see this new business. Valiant, can you read this for me? Can you read 8.1 for me?
Absolutely. Approval of legislative findings regarding and declare the development agreement and declaration of restrictive covenants entered into by the Reedy Creek Improvement District and Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, U.S. void. Ab initio and direction to litigation counsel regarding same. And I believe, Andrew, if I'm not mistaken, they're specifically referring to when they say Walt Disney Parks and Resorts US, which is a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company. That entity, I believe, is actually based in Florida.
Yes, that is correct. That is a Florida-based entity. That is the Florida-based entity that tends to own the majority of the property at the parks, is that specific entity. Thank you. That's a very good point. Now, WW Pro, let me ask you, do you know what ab initio means? It is not something from Harry Potter.
I'm assuming based on the initio there that it is in reference to from the point in which it was started. In other words, from point zero, that this was always void. It never had any basis in legality, and perhaps the best parallel that would exist that people would know about is that there there is the ability in a particular type of marriage to not simply divorce that marriage, but to nullify it through annulment. And an ab initio perhaps is akin to annulment in this way.
Yes, it is absolutely saying that. Exactly right. Ab initio means from the start. By the way, I think it's kind of douchey that lawyers use legal language way too much, but this is a technical term of art, so that's why they use that. I'm a big fan of using plain English so people understand, so everybody understands, not legalese. But in terms of contracts, it's exactly what Pro said. So from the start, these were never void, therefore not enforceable. These are not valid contracts. So we are voiding them. They're voided contracts from the start because of many flaws in them.
So in other words, Andrew, let's clarify that.
But Andrew, I heard from pixie dusters and all kinds of other pro Disney people that what was good, that something like this could never happen. That's what I heard, Andrew.
Wow, really? They said it would never ever happen, that it was impossible?
Disney
no way,
Disney is gonna sock it to DeSantis in Florida. Pow pow. Pow 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 pow, Andrew.
Wait, you mean there might, you guys are surprised that there's a problem when the entity with which you entered a contract is like, no, we're not gonna follow the terms of this ridiculous contract. Because it's ridiculous and it's not clearly not enforceable.
So let's clarify on 2 points here that I'm interested in. One is, it seems to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that this then indicates that not only are the agreements that were made void, but it is as if they never existed.
Correct. It is as if they never existed in the first place. They are entirely gone, wiped out. This is both the development agreement and the declaration of restrictive covenants, because those were considered as a single action item. Now they are different, right? They're completely different. So we'll talk about how they function differently. And that's a very big distinction that is completely 100% lost on them. But they're void from the start. It's as if they didn't happen. It's as if they don't exist. And this is a power that belongs to the district. It belongs to the state. They can do this. This is entirely within their power because they're the fucking government. That's what they do, right? That's within their authority to do that. They're given the ability to review these contracts. They're given the ability to go in there and void them if they find out that they do not fulfill the purpose and they don't meet the required criteria.
So to go back to the idea of the annulment parallel, that would be like if someone tried to marry someone who is already married. It simply can't happen. So there's no recognition that it ever occurred because it was never valid from any point in time of its existence. Now, Andrew, my big question for you that I'm very interested in knowing what you think, and maybe you want to hold this, and that's fine.
Sure.
But looking over this and watching the attorneys who are being now brought into Disney, it doesn't seem obvious to me that Disney is bringing in people who have expertise in special districts. And therefore, it seems to me that they are making obvious mistakes that someone such as yourself would not have made, but that Disney is bringing in high-level attorneys who deal with sort of this other avenue that we're going down now that you discussed potentially is there just to gum up the works. Do you see any errors that Disney has been making over the last weeks and months that someone with expertise in your area would just know you don't do that, and here's what you should do?
I think here's the big problem, and you are exactly on point. So you are exactly on point. These lawyers, right? Alan Schoenfeld, Daniel Petrocelli, Jonathan Hacker, this liberal trio, by the way, here.
Look at where they're from.
Wait a minute,
Petrocelli has quite the history as well.
New York, California, and Washington, D.C. Are you flipping kidding me?
Yep.
Yes,
a trifecta, baby.
No,
and
this is where they're getting their legal advice on Florida property law. They know nothing about this.
If they lose, it's clearly because they have nobody from Seattle.
And the other thing, Andrew, that again, to the thing you had previously pulled up showing the board minutes where they voted to void, that piece. Between Reedy Creek and the Walt Disney World Resort Company, what it was called, the Florida entity, which, as a reminder to folks watching, that's the entity that the lawyer worked for who wrote the thing to begin with that they voided. It wasn't written by Reedy Creek. It was written by
Ed
the
Milgram,
top lawyer. Yeah.
Who's the attorney for them, for Disney, really.
For Disney in Florida, who also doesn't understand special districts, apparently.
Yeah.
So just to round that out.
I'm sorry. I got my names mixed. So Ed Milgram was the district attorney, right? But it was actually written by John McGowan, who's the attorney for.
I couldn't remember his name.
Sorry, no, that's him. I know him because I've done work with him directly. I've sent clauses to him when I was representing Bonnet Creek. We had to negotiate with them, and I was repeatedly. And you can do public records across. I got documents between me and John McGowan going back quite a ways. But yeah, he's their attorney. So and make no mistake, when I was dealing with Disney, when I was dealing with Reedy Creek, see what I just did there, right? You were dealing with Disney.
Same thing.
Exactly. And that's what people inside knew. What I've known forever is it's a puppet, right? They've just been exposing this fact. This now is come to light. And they're shocked that this is a problem, that a government being a puppet of a corporation is a problem. They're shocked by this. The pure fucking hubris of these people is outstanding. But to get back to that one point that WW Pro made real quick, because I think it's a very good point. None of these people has it. And the Florida Council they brought in, Adam Colby-Loosely, which, by the way, what they do, and let me tell you about a little bit of Disney's procedural fuckery that they're well known for, is they always pro hoc vice their big firm people from the commie states, the liberal states, over into Florida. So he's probably just their vehicle to get into Florida, right? So Adam is probably just kind of their bitch. So, he allows them in. He's the one who's stamping off and saying, okay, I'm signing for, they're coming in and kind of acting under my Florida bar license. That's how, whenever you see pro hoc vice, that pretty much means, hey, they're stamping in under Florida. So I would just say this guy's a bitch. He knows nothing about property law either. He's not a property law guy. He's a litigator in Central Florida.
Does it matter considering they're going in the federal route?
Well, that is one of the points, right? So one of the points is they're trying to go and structure this as a federal case. Once again, in the Northern District of Florida, this is a federal case. They're trying to structure this to avoid Florida courts because property law is a state issue, period. End of story.
That was one of the things I brought up in the video that I did the other day, and I've been wanting to talk to you about this with the audience. How often, Andrew, is a federal judge inclined to stick his thing into clearly state-level politics or issues and overturn actual legislative action, short of it being a pure constitutional violation?
Yeah, short of there being a very, very clear, this is on the nose a constitutional violation, it is very rare that a judge is going to come out unless they've got some crazy liberal bias. We always talk about the Hawaii judges, right? That if you want
the
a liberal
Ninth
decision,
Circus Court of Appeals.
You go out to the ninth. There's certain circuits you can search out that decision if you want to find it, right? But the thing is, look, when that's appealed up, it's going to get bounced the fuck out, right? As it goes up that chain, it's going to get blown out of the water. And let me be very clear: this does have the potential to go up the chain, and Disney has the resources to push this up the chain and to delay. Right. And to potentially delay, and maybe this is their tactic. I'd love to hear if you guys think so, to delay till DeSantis is out of office.
Right. And they would pursue someone who would be amenable to what they want and promote that person like crazy in the political campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely.
That is a great tactic from a political standpoint. And remember, Disney plays these games all the time. They are very accomplished at lawfare. They are very good at using the procedural fuckery to delay and get the result they want. Because usually, mind you, Disney is going up against individuals, mom and pops, small people that don't have a lot of resources, that don't have a lot of political capital, that don't have a lot of social media capital. This is the first time they're going up against something and someone, i.e. Ron DeSantis, that actually has the resources to fight back. And the first time they're going to get the coverage, because I'm going to be on these fuckers' ass. I'm going to cover this in and out for the next week at least. And as long as this goes, I'm going to be there. I'm going to try to get into the trial if it ever goes to trial. I will definitely do that. I'll fly from Asia. Yes. I don't give a shit to cover this. But this is something that is not going to go away as easily as when they sue the mom and pop. right? When
All
they
right,
filed a
so-
lawsuit against Mexican Iron Man, it's not as easy.
No, it's not as easy.
Yeah.
So I gotta. So here's what baffles me, or no, I should say baffles me. This is what's telling to me. There were two other swings at the bat on this thing from where I sit. Number one is that they're choosing to die on this woke hill because that's what this is all about. And because number one, we now know that Chapek tried to have backdoor convos and try to stay out of politics, and Reedy Creek could have been saved. Then that was to me that's
Yep.
up at because I'm a huge baseball fan. To me, that's batter at home plate. Number one. Then when the stuff heated up again post Chapek, they could have, in my view, from where I sit as a spectator, knowing how municipal and state government stuff works, what I would have done is I would have had some convos behind the scene and I would have refiled everything and I would have tried to get another district. Now, maybe that another district that I would have wanted might not have had all of the benefits that I might have gotten from the previous district. But what I would have done is I would say, look, let's get this district ironed out, and maybe it's Reedy Creek version 2. And so where I sit, there were two previous swings of the bat, and both times brought us to where we are now. Now here we are, and our third swing at the bat from the Disney side is going to be, I'm going to file this thing in federal court, which tells me that if they weren't willing to back down from being political and let Chapek get this deal done, which could have happened, if they weren't willing to go ahead and go a procedural route when clearly the writing was on the wall legislatively at the state legislature, because they could have instantly gone into procedural mode and gotten another district or renewed their district through some other kind of negotiated means, but they chose not. They're like, no, we're going to go to war and die on this woke hill about kindergarten through third graders, education type of thing. And we're not going to let this go. Even when, Andrew, what baffles me is the selective memory of this effing company, where on the one hand, they not only forget that they were treated special way back when 50, 60, 70 years ago, and they were supposed to build a city they never built, number one. And number two is, let's not forget, people, that if it wasn't for the state of Florida staying open, which California did not, during the entire coup period, this company might not even have any bank accounts that had any money in it, because if it wasn't from the cash flow from the parks that were open during most of the coup period, then guess what? They wouldn't have gotten their $5 billion debt note that they got back when they were coming out of the COVID period. And if it wasn't for Florida, this company might not even be around, because the hotels globally were closed. All of the resorts were closed. The ships were docked and collecting dust and mothballs.
Yep.
And Disney Plus, okay, people are watching it, but now that's got a burning hole of 10 to 12 billion. I mean, I'm seeing a lack of appreciation for the state that, frankly, due to its political management practices, kept this company alive.
Well, more specifically, Ron DeSantis saved Disney's ass while Gavin Newsom was cutting their throats.
Right, they were paying him to screw them over. They were paying Gavin Newsom, sending massive political donations to literally cut their throat. Yeah. This is what you get when you get into those political elements. But look, guys, politics aside, this is just a matter of, authority, right? Like, they don't have a problem bending the knee to Gavin Newsom in California. Are they following all of Gavin's restrictions, his crazy COVID? Do they follow every single one of those to the T?
Guys, you're missing this though, Andrew. You guys just don't understand. Over in China, when they're sharing body parts, and when people are doing work they don't want to do in places that they don't want to be,
where they have to think real hard.
That's right. That is okay. Disney is probably somewhere working really hard behind the scenes in secret to get all of that changed and make it a bright, pixie dusty kind of day over there in Shanghai. That's what's happening. That's what's really happening. And in Florida, listen, they just want 4-year-olds to go ahead and understand exactly what happens in bedrooms with mommies and daddies not having a say. That's the American way. You guys, what has happened to you all? You have lost your vision.
Oh boy, Pro, that's great.
You guys are killing it. You guys are killing it.
I got a question for you before you move on for that, because you were talking about the judge a minute ago, and this is one thing before I forget. I'm really curious. Is Disney perhaps going after, I would think they are, some type of, at this point, they want a temporary injunction from a judge, because right now, Disney is saying, we have control of Reedy Creek. Of course, the state of Florida is saying, No, you don't. Reedy Creek doesn't exist. We have control of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, blah, blah, blah.
There's a little bit more than that, because here's the thing, and then let me just clarify there, because I saw this confusion in the chat, so it's actually good that you brought that up.
Yep.
Let me be very clear right now, guys. Hold on. I'll do the. Can I do this? That's why. Okay, never mind. Whatever. Fuck it. Reedy Creek is gone.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Reedy Creek is 100% no longer exists. So get Reedy Creek out of your heads. We got to actually start saying the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District.
Right.
I don't know whether CTFOB or if we could come up with some gang slaying. I know you guys in the chat, like the TOB. Yeah, you know me. Like, I don't know. But there's got to be something, because that's what we have now, and that's
CFOPed. Yeah.
So
okay,
wait a minute.
yeah.
You mean my store where I'm selling Reedy Creek State Prison apparel?
Yeah.
That's not a thing anymore.
No.
No,
Oh, man,
but
I'm going to rename the
actually-
prison.
Wait a minute. The prison
No, I like
could
it.
still
Don't
happen.
change those
but
shirts.
it can happen. It's not a thing right now, Pro, but it can happen. He absolutely can put state prisons entirely circling Disney.
Oh, I thought
And
that was the
it's-
greatest troll. I thought that was the greatest troll of all time when he said that. People took it seriously, lost their shit. It was so funny.
And
I
they
loved it.
absolutely can. And this is something that
You're harming my sales right now, Valiant, by telling people it's not real. My
No, it
bath
is.
mats,
It-
my Reedy
what?
Creek State Prison bath mats, the sales are dropping at this very moment.
I just
Don't
said I
drop the
love
soap,
them. Then go
folks.
buy them. They're collector's
No, I-
items now.
Happiest
Yeah.
jail on earth.
That's right.
Well, what angle do you want to go in, Andrew? Because I'm
Hey,
fascinated.
hold
The delay angle or the property angle? Because there's a lot
Well,
of meat here.
there's a lot of angle. No, don't worry. We're going to get to all of them. We got plenty of time.
Yeah.
We're going to get to all these in terms of delay and whatever else. I will get to this though, guys. I'm going to address all super chats, but when someone sends 100, I got to hit that, right?
Hoorah.
So Little Rock says at 100, it says, I met you on Recada's stream during Rittenhouse trial. Never had a chance to catch you live. So appreciate this is your first live, Little Rock. Welcome. And guys, make sure you're tweeting this out, share this out. I'm censored on everything, so the more this gets out, the better. And also make sure you're sharing out the video and hang out after this ends for my premiere, my short video that'll give you all these bullet points in TLDR version. But never a chance to catch you live. What about DVC members' ability after Disney lawsuit? I'm an attorney, but an ambulance chaser. Okay, let me be very clear. This doesn't affect DVC at all. Don't let them fucking gaslight you about DVC. I also, by the way, after I did special districts, I also went and was a bloodthirsty timeshare general counsel. I did a lot of work for timeshares, real property once again, real covenants once again, motherfuckers, right? This is my specialty. This is what I do in review day to day to day to day. DVC is entirely different. Your rights are all related to DVC. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. As a person who represents this industry, you may want to evaluate that particular investment and the value of the continued investment. That's all I'm saying. I'm just going to say that, not financial advice. This is not, at all, but just saying you might want to check that out.
Your owners, right, Andrew? But I mean, DVC has never had voting rights for RCID. I mean, it's not like the same
DVC
at all. It's
They
totally.
in fact, they made it very clear in their covenants because of these changes. They actually did an update and made sure it was very clear they cannot live there, stay there, register to vote there. Right, that is a very clear thing under DVC, and they make that a clear violation of the bylaws, the rules. So if you were to do
are
that,
not a resident.
if you were to try to do that, if Mexican Iron Man is like logging himself with the Grand Floridian and he's getting all of his, arepas in and, tequila, shipped in to Grand Floridian, they're going to boot it out. They're going to evict him.
What?
Period. Racist, right?
What if I go into squatter mode?
Yeah, they're going to remove you. This is Florida. It's not California. We don't get away with that.
Oh, I forgot. I was thinking like in California for a second.
No. By the way, I'm sorry, guys. I'm using slang. DVC means Disney Vacation Club, which is essentially Disney timeshares. Thank you, Valiant,
Yeah, I was going to say
for coming in there. I know sometimes the thing is with these things, guys, we've been talking about them so long and we're so inside baseball. We sometimes get into the jingoisms. I'm sorry. I try to explain those when I can, but appreciate that. Also, Little Rock, appreciate your membership. All the other super chats, don't worry, we'll get to those in a second. Also, Blue Light, welcome as well. Okay, I want to talk about this real quick though. I want to finish talking about the board and what they were doing. So really quick, they voided these, right? And they voided these agreements. And I want to get into the reasons why they voided these agreements. There's several. So one of the first is that they did not follow the very express terms. So this is something that nobody understands, and Disney is hiding the fucking ball on, right? So they have not talked about this at all. These statutes have a very clear way you have to do this, and you have to go about things, and you have to follow these to the letter. So the act contains an express mandatory notice provision which provides in relevant part. Before entering into amending, revoking a development agreement, a local government shall conduct at least 2 public hearings, right? At the option of the governing body, one of the public hearings may be held by a local planning agency. So this, by the way, is what they're trying to say. They said, oh, we established ourselves as a local planning agency, right? The Central Tourism Oversight Board. And since they didn't have proper notice, we're not doing it because they didn't notice it properly. They didn't do it properly. We're the planning agency, and we are choosing to do this, and we're choosing to say instead that they're void. So notice of intent to consider a development agreement shall be advertised approximately 7 days before each public hearing in a newspaper of general circulation and readership in the county where the local government is located. This is specific language. So you can't do it in Mexican Iron Man's, Tacos and Tequila Digest, Article 5.
It's a big publication.
It is a solid, reputable publication, but no, and neither the Kunas Daily is also not an option as well. Valiant's periodical. However, the Orlando Sentinel would qualify, right? So in Orlando, I'd be running ads in the Orlando Sentinel, Osceola, and the Osceola periodicals, Polk County, right? And they're in Orange and Osceola, so they've got to run one in both. Orlando Sentinel usually covers that in both of those counties. Now, here you go. Here's the second part.
Oh, my God. We were just talking about this.
Here's the second part. Read it and weep.
Yep.
Notice of intent to consider a development agreement shall also be mailed to all affected property owners before the first public hearing. All. Even the double
question on this.
Yep.
This is the one key area where it seems to me that they did not have people who knew what they were doing, or else this would have been taken care of. However, let me ask this to you.
Yes.
Was it a strategic reason that they did not do this? Is there some sort of strategy behind failing to do this? Did Disney want to initiate conflict, or did Disney not want to mail property owners because it would some way indicate that they were the sole owners and that there was nefarious shenanigans afoot? What went on here?
There's a lot of specific things, and this is speculation. So as our good friend Doomcock would say, take this with a grain of salt, right?
From the center of Earth.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
You're good at that. You're really good at that. Valiant can be the Harvey. But that being said, here's my speculation based on my experience. It could have been they wanted to create conflict, but Occam's razor, the easiest thing is, this is a complicated process. They were crunched on time. And frankly, Ed and them and John Classy, they haven't done stuff like this very often.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Andrew,
They've
you are
never
so on point right now.
Done this before. They don't know this. That's why people paid me big bucks in Orlando to do this shit for them. Because this is how you fuck up. I did these notices all the time, and this is why I did them, because I knew how to do them. It was routine for me. I just another Tuesday, right? I knew exactly how to do them, who to contact, where to go.
It's so routine for you, Andrew. It's so routine for you that you're gonna know. Okay, what's our next move? Okay, well we gotta check what are the guidelines on public hearings? So we can check what do we gotta do and notice. It's what we were talking about at the top of the show before Pro and Valiant got in. When I told my story of when I was dealing with the county of Santa Clara and the redevelopment agency, and we had a 10-day notice, and the notice said 10 days. And oh my God, the other thing too that you have at work, why I think that this isn't some kind of, we can't ascribe to Disney brilliance what can often be stupidity, but I think it's another thing. I think it's going back to Andrew, what you said earlier, that the company is so entrenched with that district that they're, when you get very comfortable, you make mistakes. When you have a sense of entitlement, even if you're in a corporation structure, you make mistakes because you think you can just do whatever you want to do.
But I thought that Disney Legal was so much smarter, and that these red state rubes didn't know what they were doing. And I know it's weird, right?
It's weird. It's weird when they don't actually know because they're not working with people that are on this, or they know that if they actually go down this route of applying the substantive law instead of their procedural fuckery, that they will lose, right? That they know that they lose in the substantive law, so they try to skirt the substantive law.
Yeah.
And what happens here is based on this, and actually I'll get to the other provision here, but based on that and the fact that this was something, because once again, this was something that Reedy Creek is really receiving nothing for, right? And whenever you have a deal, an exchange, you need something called consideration, right? So I don't know if you heard about this, but if I have a contract with Valiant, right? And I say Valiant, I want to use your employee, Mexican Iron Man. I want to use him to mow my lawn, right?
Right. There has to be
I'm loving
consideration
this
where
analogy.
Andrew is willing to
Yes.
pay for the cost of a sombrero.
Yes.
to
$1.
get me-
$1. And that's why you see those contracts, the $1
The
contracts.
$1. Yeah, I was about to say the $1 contracts.
is enough. But these dumb idiots did not even put that in the
I
contract.
know.
Like, not even put, hey, here's a buck, here's some sort of thing. They didn't even give nominal consideration. There's no consideration for this
Wait a minute. That
at all whatsoever.
wait a minute. When they approved that, there was no consideration in the clause.
No, there was
No,
no,
it was
there
a
was
gift.
no, there's
It was
nothing.
a gift.
I'm not
nothing-
even an attorney, let alone play one on. No way.
No, yeah,
Well, you
it's-
have a sombrero under your desk, though, so that's
It's-
a whole nother level of.
It's
You have to
really-
wonder if it even falls under like a transfer for value rule, which is something that we have to kind of deal with in
That's
the
like
financial
getting that.
world.
That's analogous to getting on one knee and asking someone to marry you without a ring.
Exactly. And speaking of without something, another thing there without was independent counsel. The district lacked independent counsel when entering into the development
Andrew,
agreement.
They had independent counsel. They had Disney, who was independent from the district, providing their counsel that was independent. Or some
Which
shit.
is what do we call in the business the conflicts of the interest, yeah, that's a bit of a conflict of interest. It's a bit of an ethical quandary. And I'm actually going to call this out, and this is a little bit of, I'm sorry, my brothers in the special district area. There's a lot of gray area and a lot of lawyers who push it. Now, I want to be clear. The firm that I work with and people I work with in the past, we stayed far clear of that. There are a lot of people that do this shit. And Reedy Creek, whenever I worked with them, this was the biggest, these guys are obviously, there's no barrier between Disney and them. It's a huge liability. It is now being called out in front of everybody, in front of millions, right?
Andrew,
This
I
is
think we've
something
got to
that's being
read
exposed.
62 and 63 for those listening and not able to watch the show.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna read this out right now. So the district, so this is Reedy Creek. So they're talking about why, once again, we're backtrack. This is why the contracts, what they tried to enter into the development agreement and the restrictive covenants, which are not contracts entirely. We'll talk about that. Why they're invalid, completely invalid. They lacked independent counsel when entering a development agreement. The district's general counsel at the time also represented Disney in real estate and other matters at the time of his engagement. And his communications with Disney's counsel relating to the development agreement indicate a desire to maintain business with Disney. Communications between the district's counsel and Disney's counsel also indicate that Disney drafted the development agreement, but attempted to obscure this fact by naming the district's counsel as the drafter. They literally have a red line where they crossed out the name.
And we saw that in the meeting. They put that out there for full humiliation.
And that was the attorney I brought up earlier who worked for the Walt Disney Resort.
I'll say it's John McGowan. It's John McGowan. I know John McGowan. I mean, and by the way, I didn't have a personal problem with him. It was just he was doing his job, right? I'm not saying these are bad people, right? They're not evil, right? They're just lawyers. They're doing what they're paid to do. That's what
Did you find it
lawyers do.
interesting that his communication said that it was bad for optics for him to be the drafter? Did you find that interesting that came out?
That's a little interesting, right? It's a little interesting there.
This is so stupid, Andrew, because had they just spent not even a retainer of 5 to 15 grand to get independent counsel, then that takes care of that clause.
They would, all they had to do was for this, go to somebody who's drafted these agreements before, who has some experience in this. Go to outside counsel just for this issue.
I know an attorney in Korea.
Yeah, I would never have done it for Disney. They can.
Bingo.
Anyways, I don't listen. We call them the rat for a reason. But anyway, that being said, also there might be some conflicts there. But that being said, these communications further show that Disney's counsel edited the text of the agenda item for the district's January 25th, 23 meeting, during which the district first held its hearing. So this reflects a procedurally unconscionable attempt by Disney to arrogate authority to itself on the eve of H19B. And by the way, HB9B is the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, CFTOB, their enactment. So the second this was enacted, Reedy Creek, poof, much like the pixie dust that these Disney people are snorting, it disappeared, and the Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board was created. And so all the rules they have to follow are in that bill. The original act, all that Reedy Creek stuff, the powers they have, that's gone. They have to look at the new law because the source of their power, and this is so important to remember, is the bill itself. That all of their powers come from that. They cannot do anything unless it is very specific in that bill. And the important thing is they knew that the second that Tourism Oversight District Board was in place, they would have powers that Reedy Creek never had, specifically regarding new laws that they were grandfathered out of. And they were afraid of that because they knew that there would be things coming down the pipeline that way.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
It's kind of funny because, well, I guess I should do it in the Cartman voice. Okay, but Andrew, all of the Diz Twitter people told me that Reedy Creek wasn't dissolved and that it was still totally there because, they didn't do anything. I find it funny that Disney actually put in their complaint the on line 6, or I think it was D or G, Reedy Creek was dissolved. Like even Disney admitted, like, again, it just goes back to all these folks out there for the last year just thinking that things that absolutely did happen didn't really happen.
The pixie dusters look at a building that still has the signage up and they're like, good enough, that it still exists, it's still real.
Right? Even Disney, as part of their legal complaint, folks, says that Florida dissolved Reedy Creek, which they did everything save for literally the boundaries of it of the district itself, and of course the municipal debt that went along with it. That's now going to be serviced by the Central Florida Tourism Oversight, taxed and paid for by Disney property.
Yes, and actually I'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
So Bricker, that's what it is. It's funny. You would never work for the rat. Hell, I would. They would just not pay me my $10 billion fee. Yeah, that'd be my retainer. It's like you gotta pay me the billions, because otherwise, get out of here. Oh, also, Little Rock, this from earlier. Sorry, I meant to get to your $50 super chat. I thought I was a member already. I am now. If the property loses value given the suit, yeah, well, that's a separate consideration, right? So you as a DVC club member need to evaluate the financial security of DVC as an entity, which is interrelated with Disney, right? So those ships do rise and fall together, but they are technically separate. But as you've seen, and I'm just going to say this, I think it's a very fair general statement. Disney does not do very well with separation of assets. As we've seen with Reedy Creek, the government, public versus private, how well is private separated from private? Ask yourself that. Yeah, Mike's shaking his head. I mean,
do you think that's simply because Disney had become so complacent over decades of nobody checking them? Yes.
They've had free reign for, was it 1960s, right?
1967.
1967. That's a while. Yeah,
that's two generations. That's almost 60 years, and it's almost 2 generations.
Yeah, I mean, that's a while, and they get used to it. And honestly, that does build an entitlement, right? You do feel like you're entitled. And by the way, they are treated like that in Central Florida. Law firms take the lowest rates for Disney work because it's the honor of working for the mouse, right? Wow. We get to put the rat tramp stamp on our legal letterhead, right? Wow. On our corporate website. We get to do that, and they view it as a flex. So
I love that.
I would charge $400, $500 an hour for them, right? Because that's what the fair rate is. Other firms want to do it for $100, want to do it for $75. Yeah, exactly. I won't flip over a tortilla for that.
Fuck that.
I mean,
they've been doing that for years. I think I've told you the story before. I mean, I had friends that worked in like toy business here in New Orleans. They make a lot of stuff for the Mardi Gras parades. Right. They got approached by Disney now almost 30 years ago. And they looked at it and they ran the numbers, and the guy who owned it was like, I mean, it'd be great because all they do is brag about to you that you get to be a Disney partner and all, you get to make stuff for Disney, the toys, the plush stuff, and all that. But it's like, but we'd be out of business. We'd be slaves to Disney. And he's like, there's no way I would ever do this. And he walked away from the deal. It's the smartest thing he ever did. They became wildly successful after that. But Disney does that not just with the lawyer. They do that with everything, literally everything. That's how they operate.
Well, hold on, Valiant. I mean, you're not going to do it for the cupcake? Because I heard WW Pro said he likes the cupcakes and he's willing to show for the cupcakes.
I love the cupcakes because they make very easy stories over on the website.
Yes.
We call those cupcake stories specifically because they help us increase the positive ratio of stories just by covering those stupid little cupcakes.
And there are people, once again, the pixie dusters, the Disney derangement syndrome as well, that are willing to do it for Disney for the honor of working for Disney, right? They have this perception, this godlike deification of Disney, and they're willing to do
I'm
that.
a
They're willing to
Disney
sell their soul for that.
provider. You know,
Andrew,
like,
I have just figured it out. When all of this goes down exactly the way that we have all predicted, Disney will then tell the pixie dusters, they'll be flabbergasted. They won't believe that Disney could have lost. Disney will explain it away that it was not Disney's fault. Disney did not let things get away from them. Their legal gurus did not let anything escape out of their vision. No, it was that a rat had sex with a pangolin, and somehow that let loose all of this chaos down there in Orlando. We're going to go back through the whole coof thing instead. They'll never take the blame, and the pixie dusters will be all too eager to hear it.
it's all
Yeah.
Maybe
China.
they're lacing the cupcakes.
It's all China.
I like this. By the way, maybe observation focus is funny, made me laugh. Also, Andrew, they're not evil, just lords of oxymoron. Keep up the good work, you silver forked mad lad. I look, listen, it's just our nature. It's just our nature, There's a reason why I had to plug out of the firm, because I would have lost it after a certain period of time of dealing with those folks. But they just take the money and say, I'm just doing my job, which they view as their ethical duty. They view as their professional duty, right? To file, to zealously advocate for their clients. But I do draw the line at making arguments that are against the substantive law. We have a duty of candor to the court. We have a duty of candor in general, right? If my client asked me to do something and I know the law was against it, I said no. And my firm actually turned down business from people that were asking us to do things that were wrong, that were just blatantly wrong. And I said I wouldn't do them. I said, look, you can give it to another person, but I am not working on this for a corporation that is just running an alter ego, right? If you were running a pure alter ego and your intent is to do that, not something I'm interested in getting behind. So let me get the final thing on this hearing. So this is, once again, and just to be clarified, once again for you guys, this is why they dropped this. They dropped this lawsuit once again because the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District was met and passed this on April 26th. So they passed the voiding of the restrictive covenants and development agreement. But guess what else they passed? Did you guys know?
No.
Okay.
Tell me. Teach me. Show
Mexican
me.
Iron Man. Can you read it? Right here. Read this for me. 9.2.
Yeah.
9.2 resolution number 640, a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the Central Florida Tourist Oversight District adopting regulations prohibiting COVID-19 restrictions and mandates by businesses within the district upon their customers or patrons, and prohibiting COVID-19 restrictions and mandates regarding the services and operations of the Central Florida Tourist Oversight District, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Boom.
Damn.
There you go.
I saw some Diz Twitter people posting about this earlier. I didn't realize this is where it came from.
Do you
Damn.
think they were a little salty about this one? Did you think this stuck in their craw a little bit?
Damn.
Oh, man, that's great.
Damn.
Yeah.
Dang, dude.
This is what they were salty about, because they saw stuff like this coming down the pike. They're like, oh, they're going to exercise actual authority. Oh, they're going to treat us like the rest of the businesses
Right.
in the state of Florida. We're not going to get to operate in our own way, operating as if it's the beginning of the pandemic. But let's be very clear, it is well over. That whole thing has been exposed, right?
Right.
I wish this had been there a couple of years ago. It was pretty miserable
Wow.
over there in Disney World.
Yeah, it was horrible, right? It was
A lot
very
of
horrible.
plexiglass. A lot of plexiglass.
How about
Yeah.
a red? They should have added a resolution saying that they're going to bring back welcome boys and girls and children of all ages.
Oh, you know that's not coming back.
No, it's not coming back.
So
Lord.
stuff like that, seeing stuff like that on the agenda is absolutely one of the reasons why they went and
Ballistic. So that's why they
filed
went thermonuclear and said we're going to go to federal court. Forget these guys. Yada yada. I can just imagine them now, around a table saying, "Who do they think they are? We're Disney. Oh my God.
We were willing to lose billions and billions of dollars, but by golly, they won't tell us who can wear a mask and who can't."
Exactly. How dare they call them? How dare they call them? Allow them to ban them from wearing masks, right?
How do you?
Prohibit that.
So I've said this repeatedly, and I cannot figure out. To me, the impact is tens of billions of dollars of this
Yes.
whole thing on the company. I mean, it's not even. It may even be half of it. It may even be north of 2 to 500 billion. I mean, if you
listen, when
depending on how many years you go back, Andrew, or how
Mexican
many years.
When are they gonna, let me ask you this question, because this is the big one, and Nikki Haley even brought it up. Are they leaving?
No.
Nikki Haley said they're gonna come to South Carolina. You know, it said come up to South Carolina. Are they gonna put Epcot on a truck and
they cannot have my rabbit chicken farm, Andrew. I'm drawing the line right here.
We talked about that this morning. We were doing the Comcast earnings call, and towards the end of it, somebody asked about that.
I'm in South Carolina. Where?
Yeah, I'm like,
how many of these Republican candidates have just screwed themselves over on their positions with Disney? It's crazy.
It's where are they going to get the $50+ billion of not only capital to build something, but then lose all the value of that property in Orlando, because it's that in the parks themselves, that property is utterly worthless. 90% of it, all it's worth is the dirt to anybody else besides Disney. It's not like Disney's going to sell all that and then somebody gets to go use the Peter Pan ride, Cinderella's Castle. No, I mean, it's worthless.
That's one of the terms of their agreement, of the restrictive covenants, which we're going to talk about. And one of the reasons why they're invalid is because they've got all these restrictions in there regarding their IP, right? Their IP.
Well, Andrew, you may not want to go political, but I'm curious your opinion on this.
Sure.
I'm watching these candidates, and I just think, going into this Republican primary, that they have completely misunderstood and therefore are completely disconnected with the people who would vote for them regarding how frustrated conservative and moderate families are with Disney. And we see this in the Disney Plus ratings. We see this in the box office. And these candidates just clearly have no idea what has happened to Disney and what it means to the people who would potentially vote for them.
They have no idea. They're absolutely divorced from reality. They don't know what's going on. They're kind of tuned out, which is what we're seeing and what you see through this lawsuit. But one thing I can see that is not out of tune reality. Thank you very much, Tank Rat, for 50 Legal Mindset memberships. Appreciate it. Absolutely insane.
Wow.
And all the members out there, that is absolutely amazing. Shout out. Thank you for the soju bottles. Man, it is good to be back.
Folks in chat, make sure that you have the ability to accept them.
Yes, make sure you have that turned on, right? You have to have that ability turned on, right? Correct?
Yeah, you have to manually turn it on, or the algorithm. What's happening right now, I can see all 50 aren't out. No, I don't think 50 are out yet, but
yeah.
So you got to go turn it on, everybody. So the easiest way to do it is to click out, click back, and then it says turn on gift memberships. Just go in your little...
I think they changed it. Actually, you can click on the little thing above the chat where the gift shows.
Oh, yeah,
like
but you got to be in live chat.
Go to live chat. You can click on that, and then it'll say accept gifted memberships, and then boom.
Boom, you're good. And you guys are Gucci. Want to see all green in the chat. Appreciate all y'all out there. All you members, everybody who's here to this chat. We're blowing up. We're also 1,350. It's kind of bouncing around there. Guys, make sure you smash the like button. We're at 500. I want to get to 1,000 on this likes, because we need to get this information out there, or else Diz Twitter, the Pixie Dusters, they're going to take over this entire narrative.
They are, Andrew. They are coming out full throttle with misinformation. Hard.
They're good little acolytes.
And I am going to be going for the next week, and I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. I'm going to be spamming out and counter to this narrative for about the next week. A lot of information on this, some deep dives on several stuff. This is the initial conversation, but certainly there's deeper dives. I'm going to do a full line by line complaint review. That'll happen. So now this is more of the quicker takes, the summaries, the TLDR versions, but we're going to do a deep dive on why they're wrong. We're going to go through. I'm going to read the whole thing at some point, but it's 77 pages. So I'm not going to do that on the panel here today. That would take forever. But what I will do is I will thank Little Rock for dropping another 50 Legal Mindset memberships. Fuck yes. Thank you so much, Little Rock.
Crazy, man.
Appreciate you, brother. Absolutely.
You guys are awesome.
Insane. Get those gifts. Appreciate y'all.
You got another 5 from IWD.
Killing it. Thank you so much, IWD, as well. And actually, let me read some of these member chats, because there's some behind the chance. And once you have that membership, you can drop a member's chat. Let's see. Manix T at a member chat said, let Disney burn. They earned it. Absolutely 100%. And then Tank Rat earlier said, Disney needs to die. As much as I hate saying growing up with the old movies, they are nothing but a woke husk of its former glory. Very, very, very true words. Very true words. Appreciate y'all. And now let's get some of these super chats. We're about a halfway point. So we're going to run some super chats now, and then I'll run them towards the end, right? So Bama grad, did you see the Florida inspectors or lawyers finally subpoenaing Disney's books? The possibility of the forensic financial audit has got to scare Iger and his minions. Well, can you talk about forensic financial audits, Mexican Iron Man? It's something that you maybe have some experience with.
Yeah, I've done a lot of transactional audits. And I mean, Jesus Christ, back in Exxon, we did internal audits all the time and had to deal with it.
Yeah.
Look, the fact of the matter is that a company like Disney does not want anyone coming in and doing the audit, because here's the deal. What happens in corporate America is this. There's a little known secret, and it's why we get Enrons and we get these periodic disasters and crises every now and again. And here's what happens. What happens is that there's this little known joke in the world of accounting called you get the audit you can afford to buy.
Yeah.
And so Disney and other companies like it kind of rotate around who's willing to come in and give them an independent letter. But now you're talking a whole other ball game when it comes to like an independent forensic audit by an accountant who's a CPA, and their firm is specifically on the list that can do governmental audits, which is an entirely different circular. It's an entirely different way that you look that audits are done. That is the last thing. It is literally like every crevice, like there. It's not like, well, we're going to look at this, and then someone on the internal audit group says, well, why don't you guys look at that instead? And the outside auditor says, okay, sure, you're paying me $1,550 an hour. I'll just turn my head this way instead of that way. No. I mean, this is a great super chat from Bama grad. This is the last thing that Disney or any other company like Disney wants ever.
And you would say those books are rather lengthy, wouldn't you, Mike?
The problem with a company like Disney, when you look at, I don't have the graphic here. I've had the graphic before where it has like all the different departments and the components. Their books are multi-layered, three-dimensional. It's like going into a vortex.
Yeah, it's not.
You have multiple entities. You've got due tos, due froms. You got balance sheet items.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Another one here. Troy says, if DeSantis really wants to go search Earth, he should go for copyright law. Bring back 25 years. Well, copyright, let me be honest with you guys. That's federal law. See, I'm not going to play games, unlike Disney, with what's federal and what's state. So at this point, that's something that is outside of DeSantis' discretion, right? However, Disney's going to have to worry about that in the future. And that's something that I know, online are going to be covering from a legal perspective when some of those windows come up. Because let me be clear about this question. Some of the biggest extensions in copyright law were pretty much solely driven by Disney. Extending the IP window again and again and again because they are shitting themselves when people can use those characters.
Steamboat Willie coming up unless they figure something out. What, 4 years? 5 years?
Yeah, 4. I think 4 or 5.
4 or 5 years.
They're in some trouble on that.
It'll be 100 years. That's right now. That's the threshold.
So get ready. They're going to argue that because they use that version of Mickey in their intro for their movies, that he's off limits still.
Oh, Yellow Flash has already stated publicly on Twitter that he will have a Steamboat Willie riff ready to go. He's already working on it. Like the day that shit expires, he's got one ready.
Awesome. It is going to be great. It is going to be epic. Let's see here. Oh, and welcome to all the new members. I see Jim Watari here, Michelle C. Appreciate y'all
Jim?
As new members. Love y'all. And then we got here. Alpha Vray says, what's up, Mindset fellow Floridian? What's up, my base Floridians? I've been on Forbes videos, spamming in the comments. My videos. Yes, do it. Guys, we got to trigger the pixie dusters. If you want,
yes,
you can do this stream, but also hang out after the stream for my premiere. I'm premiering a short video. It's going to air right after this. It was pre-recorded. It is the bullet points. So when you want to respond to them or whatever, give that video and feel free to clip it. If you want to clip it, if you want to put it on your own channel, your boy's okay with that. You want to clip that, you want to put it out there, that's fine, right? Do that. I'm caring about the message getting out there, the word getting out there that this is BS. The pixie dust is not real. So that's going to happen after this. Just stick around. You don't have to do anything. Literally, just sit in your chair. You should be redirected to it right after this. Jatari Hime says, love your Legal Eagle video. Truth is greater than bias. Did you guys see his Disney take? Did any of you guys see that?
I haven't seen it yet.
Wait, whose Disney take?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good you didn't see it. There's this guy. He's in California. He doesn't really practice law anymore so much as he does YouTube. He's got the Trump derangement syndrome. So he also had a Disney take. And I did a response video kind of rebuking it because the two strongest arguments they always make against DeSantis are they try to argue the weird bond clause contracts thing, why they couldn't dissolve Reedy Creek, which, by the way, is now a moot argument because the new district has absorbed all of the debt. So that entire argument, even if it was valid, which, by the way, it wasn't, and in my video on that, why Legal Eagle was wrong about that, he was lying about that. He doesn't know. He's a California lawyer. He never does Florida real property. Not his fault. He really doesn't know. But actually, it is his fault. I'm sorry. He could have done the research. He could have called me, but he wouldn't. The point of the matter is that these people are lying about what the law is, and now those are moot points. That contract issue, the bonds, those are moot points. The Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board was always going to take those. Those were always only going to apply to Disney property. But that's moot now. It literally, moot means does not matter, irrelevant. So all those arguments that were being made, doesn't matter. Now we're just talking about an authority issue, right? And who is in charge here? Is it Disney? Do they still have it? Or is it somewhere else? So let me get here. But corporations, to what extent have First Amendment rights standing? They need to abide by state, federal, local laws. So this is the big thing about the First Amendment arguments. And we're going to get into this, but there's something, once again, called the slippery slope. If we allow every single government action to come under scrutiny because a corporation doesn't like it, that would be a flood of litigation. But on top of that, what happened during COVID, guys? Did all those small businesses being closed, were they able to overturn the government actions? How well did that work out for them? Or did they get absolutely steamrolled across America?
I believe there was steamrolling.
Yes, there was a lot of steamrolling happened because the law related to government actions, and anybody who knows anything about government law, once again, anybody who knows about municipal law, that would be me, knows that unless an action is arbitrary and capricious, that's the standard, it is presumptively okay. Pretty much anything the government does is going to be okay because they're going to come up with a reason. It doesn't have to be a good reason. It just has to not be completely arbitrary. That's the standard here. So the standard they're trying to challenge, what Disney is trying to go is say this was arbitrary and capricious, had no purpose, no reason, zero. That's a hell of a standard to overcome. Almost never happens. I mean, effectively to the point where I could say it's not going to happen, right? You would have to say, this is how bad it would have to be. You'd have to have an email or a letter saying, we are doing this solely for the purpose of targeting Disney, and there will be no utility, absolutely whatsoever, zero utility for the people of Florida. See? See what I'm saying there? It's not that, look, people focus on the fact that, hey, it only may impact one entity. There's nothing against that, technically. If there's a benefit, yeah, it can only impact one entity. Government laws do that all the time. They often impact just one area, right? Maybe, let's put it this way. Maybe someone wants to open a brothel in your area, and you're the only brothel owner, and they suddenly ban prostitution, right?
Except for grandfathered buildings.
You know what I'm saying? It targets the one business. Let's say you want to open a
it works both ways. Was
a ferret shop. Let's get out of the a ferret shop, and they specifically ban the ownership of ferrets within the city limits.
No weasels allowed.
Yeah,
it just targets you, but they've got a purpose. It's saying ferrets are a dangerous animal which will come for your throat and they will kill you. That's good enough.
I love this analogy. I love this.
Yeah,
one.
It doesn't even have to be true.
And what if it was in the opposite direction, benefiting a company previously, giving them special entitlement, and now nullifies that special entitlement they once received? I'm assuming that there's no issue with taking away special powers that probably shouldn't have ever existed in the first place.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Exactly.
That's kind of what I was going to ask you about, because I went over that in the video. Well, no, get the super chat. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get through these because we're going to try to run through all these, and then we're going to continue with the lawsuit, guys. We're going to get real deep into this. Maria Trujillo says, at this point, I think Disney is just going for a punic victory over Santis. They tie him over to the next election so they can't even run. They've lost now. They want to bleed. Am I overthinking? Nope. That, in fact, would be one of the ways they're thinking on this.
Because that's all they've got. That's all
And
they've
they're
got at this
hoping there'll
point.
be infighting in the Republican primary that would cause him to take some damage.
Yes. Which, by the way, and I will say, and I'm not trying to get into the DeSantis thing because there's a whole DeSantis and Trump stuff. I leave that aside. But I will say this is why I appreciate DeSantis as our governor, because this is an issue where DeSantis excels, and he needs to focus on this issue. I think this is a big issue that he should focus on. This is worth his political capital. And by the way, if he's able to do that this time, right, with Disney right now, he'll be set up very, very well for 2028, right? I think doing this is a smart thing for him to do right now. This is my personal opinion, right, on this one. Satan says, citizens' untied decision. Corporations are people. Disney is going for the ploy that they were retaliated against for their political speech. It's not going to work because, once again, Reedy Creek is really the entity, the former Reedy Creek, now Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board. They're the appropriate entity here. And there's actually an issue with that in the lawsuit. One of the many issues with this lawsuit.
And Satan, please get back to work on Star Wars films. We know you work at Lucasfilm, and you're now on multiple channels instead of continuing to destroy the franchise.
Yes, doing the unholy work that must be done. Let's see here. We got another one. Jatari says, Mr. Bugcrack Media gifts every site you rock, sir. Yes, you do. Thank you for all the gifters out there. Joseph said, DeSantis is educated at Yale and Harvard and USN spec ops lawyer. He understands delay. Can he scuttle this tactic somehow? Thoughts? Yeah, he's going to make them he's going to continue the district taking what actions it can. And here's a big one, a huge one. They acknowledge in their own lawsuit that that Central Florida Tourism District, so they call it CTFOD, right? CTFOD, right? They acknowledge that they maintain the ability to impose ad valorem taxes.
I read that.
Maintenance
Why
utility
did
taxes.
they put this in here?
And build and operate and maintain roads. Do you know what that means? Gentlemen, do you know what that means?
Okay, we'll just take it all. You know, it's like they're not arguing the point.
Let me spell this out for you. Let me spell this out for you guys. They acknowledge the fact that they could slap a toll on all of those roads and make it whatever the hell they want.
Does that take away their ability to request an injunction to stop the district or the special district from applying these things to them? I don't understand why they would.
But they're basically
They have not challenged that. And that's something, once again, they would have to challenge in state court. And they know it. They know it.
Wow.
I mean, look at the way it starts. It says the contracts do not undermine the CFTOD's board ability to. Wow.
Yeah.
And let me ask, what federal judge is going to enjoin a state legislature from levying state taxes?
Well, in a board that's appointed by the state legislature. So
that's what I mean.
It's an arm. Yeah. So to be clear, think about this district as an element of the state government, kind of an element of state government imposed on a local government, which is very common. Many multi-county governments are like this. They appoint the board. Think about, for example, an airport that might straddle two counties. They might appoint an airport board, and that might have representatives from business on both sides and people from industry. Maybe they don't even live there all the time. They're just there to kind of consult because they're industry experts, right? So they're appointing the best people that are for that topic, for that issue. If it's multi-county, it affects a lot of people. It's a big issue. So they want people that are educated, and that's normal. So let's be very clear. What the appointment of people by the state, that's not a weird thing. That happens very routinely. There's nothing weird about it. So they can build and maintain roads, they can place tolls. But here's one other thing, which nobody has talked about, and which I knew all along, and I haven't talked about. Guess what they can do to pay for this lawsuit?
Tax
the property tax.
They can tax.
You got it.
Yeah.
They can issue a property tax.
Tax assessment.
Yeah.
They can assess Disney for the cost of its own lawsuit.
Yeah.
Disney is paying double. They're paying for the state of Florida, the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, for them to defend themselves. Because here's why. When you go up here, and I think this is a little bit of procedural fuckery, but Walt Disney, they try to make this about DeSantis because they knew that suing DeSantis is going to get the news line, right? Oh, let me add this here. Sorry, I'm being an idiot. But Walt Disney, right? Here's the parties, right? They're the plaintiff, right? This is the Florida entity, plaintiff, against Ron DeSantis. First of all, Ron DeSantis should not be a party to this. because Ron DeSantis did not actually take any of the actions that are being challenged here. All the actions are taken by the board itself that are really truly being challenged. But what he did was he challenged all of the board members and the officers of the district. I think it was a very smart procedural fuckery to not challenge the district itself. And you know why I think they didn't do that? Mike, what might be a little bit of a conflict if they're challenging the district? Do they name the district? What financial instrument might be out there that they might be messing with that now has been taken over by this new district?
What do you mean a financial instrument? You mean the covenants? You mean that kind of stuff?
No. Giant financial district obligation that's still outstanding.
Oh, the bonds. The bonds.
Yes,
The
exactly.
bonds. Yeah.
Here's the thing. And I know that Greenberg Treuig, their bond counsel, is paying attention right now. Love you guys. Mwah, mwah. Right? Down there in Miami.
By the way,
305.
it's completely an idiotic kind of move.
And by the way, what do they have to do from an audit standpoint, compliance standpoint? They have to disclose litigation that can challenge the validity of the bonds.
Right.
Even though they didn't name the district, which, by the way, might be a conflict with some of their contracts, they're trying to back end a way to stop the district when they really should have named the district. The district should be the defendant, because what they're trying to do is stop the district from taking an action. That's what all of this is about. Look at the remedy. The remedy on all of this is to adjoin the district. Why is the district not a party? It's because of the bonds. This is what nobody knows about. And this is a material disclosure. They are required. It will be a violation, a securities violation. They don't disclose that there's
even more
litigation.
even more than that. The other problem with their bond is it'll also jack with their bond rating, by the way, too.
Can impact it.
They can't just walk away and not pay this legal instrument because it's a security. And so, they've got other bonds. I mean, Disney as a company, as an institution, has a lot of has a lot of debts out there. The last thing they need is their credit rating to dip.
So bonds just related to the Walt Disney World Resort and Reedy Creek, which no longer exists. What's our total amount there? What are we talking about in terms of
you would have to go over to
I think it's still
Emma and actually check that up, and I can show you guys.
Billions.
1.6 billion. Yeah, I think it's around
we'll do
there.
it live. But how you guys would do this, just right here, up here. This is Emma. This is the electronic municipal marketplace. Oh, look at that. I just put in Reedy, and I can just select Reedy Creek, right? And I can look at these bonds. These are their outstanding bond issuances.
It might have just been one or two, I was thinking.
Right, so you can see, and this is a little bit small, right? But these are their outstanding issuances. Any of you guys can look at this. This is public information for you guys. In fact, I would say if you want to be really bored, go look at these. This is what I did. I helped draft these documents. I reviewed them daily. This is why they paid me a lot of money. This is why I know this is a bullshit, right? So all of these outstanding disclosures, all of them, had to say that Reedy Creek, or at the time, because they were issued under Reedy Creek, the old district, was a public entity. Huge thing. They also, in these bond disclosures, have to disclose any active litigation. And if they have an obligation as part of these bond issuances, if there is litigation which threatens the bonds, they need to talk about that. And if they're out here challenging the authority under DeSantis, I think that's a disclosure. I think they've got to disclose that.
It's clearly a disclosure item.
Oh, they'd have to file with the SEC. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's black and white. It's clearly a disclosure.
Yeah, and the
and this is from the financial. I mean, this is from Mike, right? He's like is this a disclosure guy?
Clear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, no, that's that red, yellow, green light. I mean, it's like a clear disclosure.
And all of those were transferred to the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District,
so
right?
all of these are now transferred over to the oversight district, right? So I'm actually looking at, let me see.
What about from a legal standpoint, the fact that they named them all individually and it's a multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar company like Disney?
Yeah.
That's what I was
So by the way, hold on.
The fact that they're all naming individuals who have to respond to these lawsuits now.
And let me just say this too, because I want to be very clear. It looks like they've been, at least from on its face, just me looking at this right now. By the way, it's the first time I looked at their disclosures here, but it looks like based on you can go through and look at the issuances, right? And you can look at the official statements. These are routines, filings they have to make. And then the financial disclosures, these are kind of their operating numbers. There's something that they'd put a Mexican on. And then you have event-based disclosures. So this is when something happens. So most commonly, it's a ratings change.
That's what I was going to say. You got Fitch, Moody's, S&Ps. Yeah.
In March, there was a ratings change, right? So there's a rating change from Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and Fitch, right? But look at this right here. What do we got here? I haven't even opened this. On the 2nd, 27th, 2023, there was a state of Florida legislative filing, right? A disclosure for all of these bonds, right? I guarantee you, we're not going to get into this right now, but I guarantee this was about the updated legislation moving over to the Central Florida Tourism District. So they had to disclose that. They definitely have to be filing one, and they may, right? They have a certain period of time, which they can, right? But what I'm saying is that I'm not saying they're out of compliance now. I'm saying now they have to do it. This is a big issue for them. And I think they were thinking about that when they filed these complaints. They do have to think about these things from a corporate standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. That you are suing the entity over you, which has bonds pretty much solely benefiting you. Let's be very real.
And Andrew, quick question on this. I'm assuming that Florida state laws are going to be just like here in Louisiana or most other states, where being that the first named defendant, Ron DeSantis, in his official capacity as governor, he'll be represented by the AG?
Yes, correct. And remember that this is why Disney is paying the legal bill, because this is, yes, he's suing him, the AG will defend, and that portion is on Ron, but actually he should be removed as a party pretty soon because none of this relates to him. All of these people down here, Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, John Classy, he's the administrator, right? Mm-hmm. All of these folks are from the district. So the district has to defend them. The district has a legal obligation to defend its board members and its staff when they're acting in their official capacity. So those words are our magic words. They do mean something. Mm-hmm.
I wonder, Ron DeSantis acted in official capacity. He signed the legislation. So then why not name as a co-defendant every member of the House and Senate in the Florida legislature too that passed it, that voted for it? It seems a little ridiculous. I didn't understand how they were attaching Ron DeSantis in his official capacity as governor that did what?
Marketing and PR.
Exactly. Apart from that, what actual legal foundational basis is there? Because he came out and he said,
it's because he hurt their feelings.
He hurt their
feelings.
And he hurt their fees.
I'm not even lying when I say that's actually the cause of action. And we're going to get to those. We're going to go through each of those because they're small enough to get through. Pro, you had a question?
Yeah. So I'm thinking about this, and maybe I'm just a little nefarious here in the way I'm pondering. But let's say that the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, it now has to pay for the representation of these individuals who are named in the complaint. Yes. And therefore they need legal counsel. They need attorneys on their team. Yes. I'm just curious. And also this district, all of its money comes from, I guess, Disney. Is that correct?
That is the majority. Disney. No, let's be clear though. This is actually a material part of the notice. There are technically other private parties on their property within the district. Disney is the majority. They're the controlling.
Okay, so here's my question for you.
There are other private parties there.
And maybe I'm nefarious in just thinking this. Could the district, funded by Disney, going against Disney, but again, funded by Disney. Could the district charge or pay out any insane amount of money to a legal team? There's no cap on that number, and all of that would be paid then. What is the standard for reasonability?
There is a reasonableness standard, but because it's a government, right? So you're not going to be able to.
They have to bid this out in some way.
Yeah, you do have to go through like RFP. For example, right now they're actually searching for their district general counsel. If I was in Florida, I would apply for it. If I was still in Florida there actively, right? I would apply for it. They're setting out one for a district counsel that, has the type of experience that I had. Like I would definitely qualify for that, and I would go in and I would tap in on that. But they
can the district hire? Okay, so let's say that the district
they can hire whoever they want.
But the number of attorneys, can they build a team that's just ridiculously large and then say, Disney, you're paying the bill for this? We needed 100 attorneys.
They can do it. And by the way, if Disney doesn't pay the bill, guess what they get to do? Because they're a government. They get to put a lien on that property, a tax lien on that property. And if they don't pay, they can take Disney's property.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to put some advertising, maybe some billboards up in Spaceship Earth.
Oh, I mean, we're gonna just put the prison in Spaceship Earth, right? I mean, that's where we're gonna have the insane asylum for the pixie dusters.
Right
because
there with the
that's
Phoenicians.
Exactly. Think the
So,
Phoenicians.
well, that's amazing to me that they can hire, and
Yeah.
I love this. I had not thought of this before until you started talking.
Nobody
They could
knows,
literally
nobody
hire
understands us.
100 attorneys and say we had to have them.
Yeah,
So even if they have to do a bidding process, they can go for gargantuan sizes and say, well, it's Disney. We needed them. And then charge Disney for it.
Honestly, that's what Disney does. When Disney wants to sue, they do this procedural fuckery. They try to bring stuff in federal court to get it away from small businesses and individuals who may have your local yokel lawyer. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, we're just suing you in like all 50 states, right? All the ones you can't get to. Like, let's see you pro hoc vice in all 50 states. You know, that's what Disney does. That's their procedural fuckery. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know it is. Clippers, what's up? That being said.
Okay. One more question for you.
Sure.
Because I'm having fun now, thinking of all the ways that they can hurt Disney. So we were talking about toll roads before.
Yes, correct.
Now, Disney is, I would say that 99.9% of the buses that run on Disney property are owned by Disney.
Correct.
I also, having gone through a few toll roads myself, I recall that buses often pay more than other vehicles for going through those toll roads. Could the district set up a toll system in which buses are charged significantly, insanely higher than any other vehicle?
Yes, they could do that,
okay.
and that would pass a rational basis test. If
Yep,
they
that's what I was
if they were
wondering.
charged 100x, they could come up with a justification for that. They could say, hey, it's because of the burden, the amount of people in the bus. There's how many people in the bus? Okay, so we're assuming each vehicle is one person generally, right? So we're going to charge however many seats in the bus. We're going to do that X number to the toll, right? So there's 35.
We may
seats in the
finally
bus,
get a
or-
monorail expansion after all.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a
Plus,
hyperloop.
who's thinking
Yeah,
about the poor
hyperloop.
road? We got to think about the poor roads in Florida. Hashtag asphalt lives matter.
Yeah, we're not just gonna have a hyperloop. It's gonna have a Harry Potter world advertisement on the side of it.
I
Right?
love it.
It's gonna be fantastic. It's gonna be great. Yeah. So let me get burned through some of these super chats. I'm doing them in speed mode here. So this is my lightning road. JRG Project says, could shareholders pressure the board to end the lawsuit despite Iger's wishes? They could pressure Disney's board, right? So Disney has the power to drop. How much power do shareholders have to affect company legal proceedings? Guys, you cover the earnings calls. You guys cover the board stuff. What do you guys feel about this? Can they do it?
Nelson Peltz? I mean, he's still out there. I mean, he said he will be watching and rooting for Disney. Now, I mean, there's going to have to be some actual financial pain brought to bear for him to really step in. And I think, you know, if this Reedy Creek situation is going to have some type of financial impact on Disney, it's not going to be tomorrow. I mean, this is going to be long term. I mean, it's like you said, the likelihood this is going to drag out. We're going to see taxes and whatnot and regulatory scrutiny in the interim because the state has the power to do that clearly. But it's really hard to say.
I'm watching Michael Eisner. That's the person I'm watching now to see what his take is. If we see him turn, you've already got Peltz and Perlmutter. They're already really pissed about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
if you add a big player like an Eisner who has all those shares, you're not going to turn the institutional investors, I don't think. But there's enough people out there that if this goes into a negative financial situation, I mean, we don't know what kind of pain Florida could potentially bring if Disney continues to piss them off.
That's it.
So
right.
And where's the limit?
There's no limit. I mean, the Florida legislature entirely controlled by the state, right? You're not going to overpower the state in its regulation of Disney. So there's going to be more coming down the pike. Like, this is just, as DeSantis said, this is just warming up. It is idiotic to try to fight folks like this, to try to make it so that you're an enemy of the state, like literally, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your choice is, look, like in most situations, like with a job you don't like, what's your choice? Leave, right? If you don't like it, you got to play ball. By the way, I live in another country, right? If I don't like the rules in Korea, I can leave. If I don't like the rules in Japan, I can leave. If I don't like the rules in Thailand, I can leave. Like, I leave. Like, if I'm not willing to follow the rules, I go. That's my option. There's no third option. The whine and complain about it to the court, that's not something that flies. That's not.
Andrew, you remember when those other theme parks wanted those special districts so badly?
Yeah, I know, because I applied for them. right? That was
I'm
actually
thinking.
me.
I'm thinking those applications have dried up now. I don't think Universal wants a special district any longer. They're probably saying, you know what? That actually looks like a good case of strangulation over there at Disney World. We'll pass now.
Oh, I think, well, actually, honestly, to be honest, they looked at it and were like, when we were looking at it, it was like, well, probably not worth to do it. We can do most of the things elsewise. What I think they should do is they should go and do it and get all these powers granted to them, right? And watch exactly how they're much more lenient with them than with Disney. It'd be a great contrast and blow them out of the water. Business willing to do business versus willing not to do business, right? Mm-hmm. Now, there might be some issues with them going to the state because under the most of what goes on, you usually have to go to the county because they're entirely within one county. Disney, Reedy Creek is within 2 counties, by the way. Orange, Osceola, they also have some mitigation property that's also in a different county as well. So that's one thing. Okay, let me get this locals right here. So Squid said at $10 on locals said, if DeSantis decides to build an elementary school next to Disney properties, would Disney have to pack up and move? Well, they wouldn't have to, but they might want to, right? That's the whole thing with the prisons and everything else. They might want to, but I think we've talked about it. They're not probably able to. Casperia says, no. Freaking Disney Corp trying to take credit for what Walt Disney built. Walt would never support the garbage that Disney's doing right now.
No.
Absolutely agree. Jim Otari said, Mexican Iron Man and the 49ers pick NFL draft.
I can't believe Jim didn't make you drink. That's amazing.
Oh, not yet.
Oh, no.
Oh, I didn't mean, no, I said he didn't. I said he didn't. I can't never. Oh, damn it.
Analysis dropping as we speak.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh. IWD said the old fiasco only goes to prove the government employees shouldn't be allowed to vote, and Reedy Creek should have been seized outright. Well, it's good. I think it's good to maintain it as a public entity because something needs to maintain those bonds, and something needs to actually act as a government. And now they're going to get something that is clearly separate, and they're clearly, by the fact that they have a YouTube channel, which is above and beyond committed to transparency. And the most important thing here is that these districts are supposed to represent the people. They are not supposed to represent the corporations. They're supposed to represent the government and be a branch of the people, the government being by the people, for the people. There are states that still believe that, and Florida's one of them. Mm-hmm. J. Steph Law says $1 million an hour, and you agree billable on the hour.
That seems perfectly reasonable to me.
Perfectly reasonable. There's lawyers that literally their specialty is figuring out whether what other lawyers charge is reasonable. I'm not kidding.
Oh, there was a lawyer. We bid it out to 3 guys. This was the lowest. We couldn't do
it. And that whole profession started with the John Grissom novel, The Firm, starring Tom Cruise.
Rest of the South says, join Lake and watch this whole stream later. So perfect. This very topic is in your wheelhouse. This is my house, which is why I must defend this house. Right, and this is real property. This is not contracts, despite what Disney may want to say, despite how they may want to make it look. This is not a contractual issue. It never has been. They one thing I will point out is that they do in their complaint, and this is very important. I want to make this very clear. They do try to call the development agreements and restrictive covenants contracts. This is not entirely true, and this is very deceptive because here's the thing. Development agreements are not a true contract. And what do I mean by that? They're not unconstrained. They're a type of contract that is between the government and a private actor, and they must specifically adhere to the requirements of the statute. Yeah. You can't agree to stuff that the statute doesn't allow you to agree to. You don't have freedom of contract. So all this bullshit that they talk about, liberty to contract, and this and that. And I know, by the way, the Cato Institute, the libertarians, which is why I hate ever using the word libertarian to describe anything related to my beliefs. They're like, well, this is about freedom of business. No, idiots. This is about statutory law. This is the public municipal law. It's different, right? They don't have freedom to contract. They have to follow the fucking statute. That's how this works.
Nobody has a right to a special district. I keep telling people this. It's
like color by numbers, and they're like, but I want to color outside. I'm like, okay, but that's not what you get to do. Like this, it's in the middle here. And the second part is restrictive covenants. And this is very deceptive. This is an outright lie. And I want to get this out here because this is something they're doing, and it's a trick. It's a mental trick that they're trying to put on everyone. And I am not going to fall for it. Declaration of restricted covenants. Restrictive covenants are not pure contracts. They act in certain ways like contracts, but they are not. They have different requirements. How do I know this? Well, I just happen to, because it's kind of weird, but good timing, I just happen to teach a class on property, right? Look at the property professor right here who taught a class on property. And no less than a month ago, for Andrew Branca's American Law course, this property law course, you can still get the course recording.
I'm sorry, can we go back to that smug bastard picture? There it is.
You like that? You like that one, that smug bastard? Here's your professor. So Disney, the professor's in the house. Let me give you a lesson. And this is some free lesson, some free alpha, right? And this is from my lesson. So class is in session. Ring the bell, right? This is from my lesson on real covenants. My exact lesson you can see from 3/20/2023, right? Real covenants. There are 3 critical elements. And let me put this on the side here so you can see, right? 3 critical elements to real covenants and equitable servitudes are very, very related. You've got to have intent. You've got to have proper notice, right?
I think
you've
we
got to
missed that
mail
one.
everybody. And the last part, the thing that's different from a contract is it has to touch and concern the land. And we are not talking about the type of touching and concerning that the Disney employees are doing and getting arrested for in Polk County. We are not talking about that.
Oh, Jesus.
We are not talking about that. By the way, guys, we're going to get in trouble for this. So make sure you ding the bell. You've liked this. Make sure you share. We're already yellow. We're
Channel
yellow, guys.
demonetized.
And demonetized.
Come join the
'cause
Disney parks. We'd love to touch you too.
I am calling that one out right there. So this is the thing. It has to be about the land, right? Covenants have to be about the land. Gentlemen, what the fuck does fanciful characters, including Mickey Mouse, have to do with property?
But they said they were going to build a city 65 years ago. They're going to build the city tomorrow. It just didn't happen. Walt died. Walt died, and they said, "Fuck it."
It has nothing to do with property. And therefore, at least stuff like that, like provisions related to keeping Mickey Mouse out their mouth, right? That's not enforceable. Sorry, that's like, it doesn't have anything to do with the land. You go to a court, you say, is this valid? They're like, hell no, this isn't valid, right? There's absolutely no way this is valid. They'd throw that out there.
Can they piecemeal that out, or does it void all of it when they start looking at this stuff and say, this is littered with just stupidity?
If this had been properly brought, once again, this is in federal court, right? If this was properly brought to a state court, they would throw those provisions out. What they try to do is they try to reform it as best they can to keep it binding. They would throw those provisions out, but then they would look and say, wait a second, you don't have notice? Oh, it's all gone, right?
Yeah.
Without notice, that is a critical element. It is all gone.
Yeah.
Void ab initio,
Non-starter.
done. Non-starter.
Non-starter. Done.
Non-starter. So this all gets flushed down the drain.
So instead, they went to the feds with a giant whee.
Yes, and let's talk about that.
It's almost like it's like Daddy's telling me no, so I'm gonna go to Grandpa federal court. Grandpa, Daddy,
no.
He says I can't have it. Huh?
Grandpa's too based. Grandpa's too based. It's feminist auntie. You know.
Oh, feminist auntie. Yes, feminist auntie.
Yes, because that. By the way, let me make no mistakes here. I mean, this isn't political, but it is, because they're trying to search out the most liberal justice possible, and the only way they're going to get an Obama judge or a Biden judge is in federal court. They have no fucking chance in this. And if this goes to the Supreme Court, it will be blown out of the water because of the precedential effect this would have.
This hasn't been assigned on a docket yet to a certain judge, though, right?
I'd have to check. I have not pulled that, and as soon as we find that out, I will release that.
Because
but
Disney's
that
going to
won't
try to finagle it to one that was definitely not a Trump appointee.
I think it has been. I'll look it up real quick, but I think it has.
I thought it might have. Yeah,
you can look it up real quick, but the point of the matter is that they're going to try that, right? And I'll do a separate video deep diving on the judge and going into their judicial history and how liberal they are and everything. Well, I'm going to break all those stuff out because
But Andrew, with stuff like this, there's just no matter how liberal the judge is going to be, I just cannot see them piercing into the property law aspects of this related to a sovereign state of the United States. I just cannot see anyone. I mean,
you would need a very demented judge. They do exist.
They'd have to be demented, communist, not give an F about their judicial standing at all. I just
Well, speaking of that, how would you
speaking
like
of which, let me pull this article here. So apparently, yes, there was an assignment to a Obama appointed judge. So this is just breaking news here about the Obama appointed judge. So yeah, this is definitely a tactic, right?
Yep.
But once again, this is something that will go to, if it went the wrong way in trial court, would go to appeal, right? Where you're going to get out of those situations. And then, of course, if it went to SCOTUS, it's going to get blown out of the fucking water.
I will say
Right?
this, Andrew, real quick, since you brought this up. If we actually get a ruling on this, then let's pretend that the judge pulls something out of their ass to rule in favor of Disney. I mean, that's literally what we're talking about.
We're going to have to
point.
spend 8 months of pixie dusting if that
Wait.
happens.
Yeah, go ahead.
I cannot wait to read that ruling, because that is going to be some of the most convoluted horse shit probably you will have ever seen come out of a federal judge that isn't sitting on the Ninth Circus Court of Appeals.
This would create, understand, guys, this would create a precedent for every single homeowners association in all of America
Yep.
to bring federal claims. Literally, every single one will be able to bring federal claims. It will be insane. There will be a flood of litigation. It would absolutely blow out. So I want to speed run through it. I'm going to get to the rest of the super chat. Thank you, D-Watt, for the super sticker. Appreciate you. I'm going to get to the rest of the super chats, but I want to make sure I get to all of the causes of action and I give you my quick take on them. I will be doing an in-depth on each of those, so don't worry about that. But we'll save that for another stream. So the first cause of action here, the contracts clause. So they're trying to make an argument that this is breaching their freedom of contract. So the government's freedom of contract with a private entity. And let's be clear. I want to be very clear. You see a lot of times all these citations, right? All of these citations. And what these lawyers want you to think, and Steve's in this, I think Steve's Ghazi's in the chat. He can tell you this. They want you to think that, oh, look, we got this brick, so we are very well cited. Not one of these fucking cases is a Florida case that relates to this area of law. In fact, many of them are not even close. And they're related to utility companies and cities. And utility companies are not pure government. They're quasi-governments that operate different than Florida special governments, special districts. Once again, they don't know Florida law. They're trying to take this utility law from other areas and bootstrap their LA law, their New Orleans law.
I was about to say,
right?
I would not cite New Orleans case law because that is some of the most corrupt bullshit in history. I would not be using that.
These citations have nothing to do with Florida and Florida law. None of them are even Floridian cases. And by the way, I've reviewed this entire case and I've looked up any Florida citations. None of them have to do with special district. None of them are on point at all. These are the most trash citations I've ever seen for a case like this. Trying to bring the special district into federal court is unprecedented. And that's why trying to set this precedent of we're going to have a constitutional, right? A literal Article 1 claim. Look, constitutional claim. So every single contract between any private entity, right? Because they don't make a distinction, and a government, they think that should be a federal claim. This is
Go big or go home, baby.
To every single private entity bringing a federal claim. If one thing federal judges are, it's lazy as fuck. They will never allow this one to fly. That's why, for that reason alone, this gets blown out of the water. This first contract clause argument gets blown out, absolutely out of the water, right?
Even Supreme Courts don't like to have massive ripple effects by and large. I mean, you think about just some lowly little entry-level federal court judge that, I mean, they ain't going to want to rock the boat.
No, not at all. Second cause of action is once again, this is property law. Eminent domain, which is also takings. Whenever you see takings clause, that's eminent domain. It stems out of Article 5, right? And Article 14 as well, the Constitution. But it is really quintessentially state law and governed by state property law. Yes, it derives of the Constitution, but each of the states has applied that. They have laws regarding eminent domain, which often are more strict than the federal requirements. So, but yet they tried to make this takings case, right? Because they say that Disney's property has been taken without just compensation, right? That the actions of the board are taking their property without compensation.
175 is insane.
What?
What the hell are they talking about, Andrew?
Yeah, look at this. Can you read that? Can you read 175 for me?
Contract rights are a form of property and as such may be taken for a public purpose provided that just compensation is paid.
Right? So they're trying to argue that whatever contractual right they had in these development agreements, that's being taken without just compensation. And once again, once you start opening these doors to every single contract being a federal takings case, like, okay, so your contract is breached, so all contracts are going to go to federal court now?
Well,
Are
Andrew,
you fucking kidding me?
This is why I said this is insane. Would that not, therefore, if that precedent were set, allow someone who disagrees with their homeowners association changing some sort of rule, going to federal court and claiming, hey, something of value has been lost because my HOA changed something that I don't like, and therefore I have a claim under the
takings clause.
Yes.
Yeah, even though it's a private entity, right? You know, it's like it's really insane. And here's the thing: ultimately, right? Disney is not losing or is not lost or gained anything so far. All of those rights, by the way, they're concerned about. And let me be very clear: it's very technical, wonky stuff. But what Disney is concerned about is what's called development rights. There's things called, for example, environmental mitigation credits, development credits. They have, for example, when you go to develop land, you have a certain amount of rooms, for example, for hotels, keys, they call them, right? So you're allowed to build a certain amount of hotel rooms. And what Disney wants is to maintain those development rights, saying, okay, within this area, we want to maintain those development rights. But those rights always were with Reedy Creek.
Right.
Reedy Creek is the only
which is to me legally, unless I'm reading this wrong, Andrew, I find this all to be legally delusional, meaning that you go from being able to first operate in what is a privileged tax district to now I've got like some rights that I'm creating for myself to develop these this thing the way I want. And somehow that leapfrogs now into contract rights that now are guaranteed by the Constitution. This is the biggest crock of like, if this is like, in track and field, they have the triple jump. This is the triple jump of Disney legal delusion.
It's mental gymnastics. Andrew, real quick, I'm curious.
This is insane. Yeah.
What is it? Could you clarify for me and maybe for the audience as well? What is it exactly when we talk about, the legislative declaration takes Disney's property? Would you please explain exactly what Disney is claiming? We're talking real property here?
No. So for
exactly,
this,
that's what I'm saying.
They're not talking about real property at all. They're trying to say, oh, our credits are being taken. Our development credits are being taken.
Yeah.
Nobody's taking anything. They're still with the district like they were before. They always were with the district, right? These credits are always with the district. When I represented the nearby Bonnet Creek district, right? They had development credits as well, which rest with the district, right? The developer is entitled to use them and they negotiate with them on using those, right? But those credits are still held by the district. They're still maintained by the district because the district has ongoing obligations in terms of environmental mitigation. So for example, this is the deal, right? So Reedy Creek has to maintain wetlands, right? They have a duty. They have to maintain these wetlands because Florida wants to, love the environment and all that good stuff because Florida has those laws, by the way, right?
Yep.
Where if you want to build a hotel, you got to maintain some conservation land.
Yep.
So they have an ongoing duty to maintain those swamps, to keep those gators chomping, right? They, in exchange for that duty, they're given the ability to build their hotels.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that has always rested with the district. It's not being taken from anybody. Disney never had it to begin with.
Yeah.
I hope the subsequent points get better.
Yeah.
If the subsequent claims are worse than this, I can't even imagine. This is pathetic.
Yeah,
these are opening salvos.
This is just absolutely. I mean, honestly, guys, it shows to me how these people do not understand property law. Fundamentally, this is why lawyers specialize, right? We're all specialists. And look, I'm not Steve Gosney, right? And thank you, Steve, for saying he's a lawyer over there. He's an expert public defender. He's an expert guy. If I'm talking about defense law, criminal defense, I'm talking with Steve because that's his area of expertise. I just watch these trials and I comment pretty much as an educated, in an entertaining, funny way. But I never say I'm some trial lawyer who's an expert in trial. No, my expert is special districts, bitch. This is my house, right? Yeah. Steve says right here, I can't believe I'm geeking out on real property law. It's a spectacular stream. Great panel mindset. Appreciate you, brother. And keep up your good content and keep up, dude. You've been producing books every 2 seconds. So good job on that, brother. So
See, y'all think
that's
it looks ridiculous. I kind of scanned through this, and my first impression was, yeah, it looks kind of crazy, even with my layman's glance. But it just looks like spaghetti against a wall for Disney to me. It's just, let's see what sticks.
When you're a lawyer looking at this, you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, this would the precedent this would set, the legal arguments they're making. This wouldn't fly.
Oh my God, the Fifth fucking Amendment. No, they didn't.
They did. They Fifth Amendment this.
No.
That's how they're trying to elicit federal action. Well, it's a constitutional violation, Judge. That's why we're in federal court.
And mind you, guys, understand. I want to go back here and kind of let's see if I can just kind of look up here. So this is page 67, right? So you want to look at the structure here, right? Page 1 through pretty much 46. Oh, no, sorry, 59. 1 through 59. 59 pages is them giving what they call facts. Really, it's their butthurt feelings, right?
Yes.
So it is 59
And then they did
pages.
this, Daddy, and they did that, Dad, and they did this, and they did that, and Daddy did this, and Daddy did that.
And then they dissolved Pixie Dusters. They dissolved Reedy Creek right up there. I think it's D on that list. That's why I was like,
But I swear it wasn't
All
dissolved.
right, so we're at the contracts was one. Second one, we just did
Taking was 3. So by the way, I'm just going to point this out. 59 to 69. So they got about 10, 11 pages of actual legal argument. That's it. 77 pages and 10 of legal argument. That is a fucking joke. And
wow.
By the way, for those
So they're not even getting in the body of this, because I've read a lot of, and look, not like you, but I've read enough. So they're not even getting into, because normally they'll get into the argument of the case. They might cite the case law, but they'll get into, so they're basically just dropping citations and saying, wham. I mean, they're basically just saying, this is our position, and they're dropping these bullshit case laws that don't even apply, and they're not even arguing the merits of where they're coming from.
No, not at all. So let's get into number 65, right? Page 65. Let's jump right down to page 65, where we get to the third cause of action, which is talking about due process. Once again, they're trying to argue a 14th Amendment. This is literally the same type of thing they would try to pull for some racial bullshit, saying they're being discriminated against, whatever.
Right.
They are claiming they are being deprived of life, liberty, and process of property without due process of law, a 14th Amendment violation. And
what
here's
basis?
what they say.
On what basis? It's the fucking state legislature. If that's not due process of law, what is, Andrew?
Right here, they say, oh, well, any state or local entity cannot adopt any arbitrary or irrational legislative act affecting a person's rights. This is actually a true statement of the law, right?
And so they want to jump with state-created rights to what, the Citizens United, and that's now they're Disney as a person?
But wait a minute. It's a special district. It's not Disney.
Exactly. And on top of that, this standard right here, this little standard, arbitrary and irrational, almost anything flies under that. Literally, almost never do you see cases overturned as arbitrary and capricious. It does not happen. That is the lowest possible standard.
I'm
lowest
amazed.
possible standard.
I'm amazed
Andrew,
that
what
this
you're
is all they have.
showing, Andrew,
They're trying to say, look at this. They're trying to say
their ass kicked, and they
that
know
because DeSantis is retaliating, that removes any possible purpose. That's not how this works. That's not how this works at all.
They would have to be Reedy Creek. They're not. They don't. I don't understand how they can possibly make that argument in court.
Exactly. Everything that happened under Reedy Creek, which by the way is gone, so there's
oh
no
my God,
standing
look at what
because
you
it's
just
not even a party.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, they actually put this in the filing?
They put this in the
What
filing.
you highlighted? No, what you highlighted? It was instead enacted to further an official state campaign. An official state campaign. God, that sounds so common.
Official state, like it's like Florida approved, like Florida brand retaliation. Yeah.
Against Disney for expressing a viewpoint that Governor DeSantis and his legislative allies disagree with. Wow.
This is in their actual filing, and they're trying to say,
wow.
So what they're trying to create here, guys, is every time a government actor says something that is against your viewpoint, you can go to federal court as a major corporation and get it overturned. This is big corporations trying to take over America. If you want to see big corporations and what they think in their entitlement, Disney is the number one example, which is why I love people like WW Pro, Valiant, and Mexican Airmen who covered Disney, because Disney sets the tone for other large American corporations. This is why this case is so massive, because Disney is going to set the blueprint. If Disney is allowed to do this, Apple, Google, everybody else is going to try the same bullshit. All these woke corporations, Bud Light, yeah, they're going to be trying to pull this too. Every single one of them. Absolutely ridiculous.
I'm amazed. There's nothing of substance here. Not only is there
No.
nothing of substance, but they are essentially placing themselves into the positions whereby they would gain some sort of standing, except that those entities don't even exist. There's not even an entity to be wronged.
And further on that, even further, look at this. Who are they talking about? The
Central Florida
CTFOB. Well, guess what? You didn't name them as a party, did you, buddy? I mean, look right here. Look what it says. Disney is entitled to a declaration that the arbitrary and irrational violates due process, right? They're entitled to enjoining the defendants from enforcing, but you didn't include the district itself.
Right? They're not a defendant.
They can't be because of the bond issue. I mean, they just
and that's where they
if
knew
they
it,
go
right?
there, then they're shooting. It's like having a handgun and shooting your left arm.
But they're kind of they're like, oh, I'm not going to shoot the left arm. I'm going to shoot the right one.
Right,
You
right,
know?
right.
Like as if it's not connected to the body. Like they're missing the fucking point.
Yes,
And
exactly.
Tank Rat, you cannot be more true. Dude who wrote this lawsuit like a rookie at a law school. Oh, yeah. And guys, everybody who sent the super chat, I'm getting to them. We're going to go through them. I just want to make sure we get to these clauses because we're going to wrap here in about 15. So I want to make sure that I've got everything.
Well, so Andrew, real quick, I don't want to take too much time, but given just how ridiculous these claims are,
Sure.
do you think that, I mean, I know that Disney wants to try to run out the clock, but do you think that there's some repercussions from this, from people saying you wasted so much of our time and money? I mean,
I think there's
what's the
repercussions.
backlash here?
I think there's repercussions both politically in terms of losing their political capital in Florida, certainly with Republicans, but even I think with Democrats are like, dude, we can't justify this because you're kind of screwing over now residents of the state of Florida. Like they're gonna.
This is a legal tantrum. This is what this amounts to. It's a legal tantrum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's going to come down. And these last two causes of action, let me get these real quick. I can hit them together. The fourth cause of action is First Amendment, and so is the fifth, right? And essentially, what these are saying is the statements by Disney and some of the board members, the statements by Ron DeSantis and some of the board members, because they are mean statements.
Meanie face.
Mean face. And because Disney's statements, they're trying to say, oh, we are protected by the First Amendment on our statements. Those are completely irrelevant because the action was taken against Reedy Creek, which is a separate body. None of your alleged retaliation was against you. It doesn't apply to you at all. It applied previously to Reedy Creek, which is now gone, and now the Central Florida Tourism District. You have no standing to bring this.
That's what I kept thinking is how quickly would they dismiss some of these claims, not the whole suit necessarily, but maybe some of these claims of just no legal standing because, that and the fact that why didn't the former board members of the former Reedy Creek file this lawsuit instead? Maybe that would have looked better. But it's like with Disney doing it, to me, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It does not make any sense whatsoever.
But Disney has to do it this way.
They have to do it.
They have to do it this way in their own minds.
I know that. I know that's what they're thinking. Right. And that's my point is that this is why I get back to this is just it's a shell game. It's a run the clock game. It's last desperate act of Disney at this point because they've got nowhere left to go. And that's why this whole thing looks like a bunch of wet spaghetti up against the wall. Let's see if we can get something to stick here.
My overall reaction is this. If Disney is willing to literally do shit like this for a district that either they have, are, and will lose tens of billions, possibly hundreds of billions of dollars, this is one hell of a woke hill that they're going to die on. And this is why I agree with Andrew that this company needs to burn to the ground and die. And those people that are apologists and rooting for Disney to be saved, Disney to be turned around. Oh, I think Disney's like, oh, we're firing the woke purge is on.
It's
no,
not
it's not. No, it's not. Read this. This is a company that right now, this week, this month, is paying what, Andrew? $1,500 to $2,500 an hour to these idiots to file this thing?
And Disney is admitting, everybody, by the way, understand what they're confessing here, right? They're saying in these clauses, right, that what they were doing was political speech. This is
a company that is filing a case in federal court because they're pissed off that they're pissed off that parents should have a right to what their kids get sexualized content K through 3. This is the hill that your Disney. So anyone out there watching the show, those of you that are Disney fans, Disney apologists, Disney shills, or you're sitting here having an argument that this company is going to get fixed and it's going through some kind of woke purge and it's going to emerge better because of capitalism. No, it's not. This company is showing that it is willing to lose literally tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars and file a case in federal court versus, guess what? Working shit out and keeping it special district. That is the hill that this company's dying on. And if we let them do this, then here's what I learned from Andrew. If this company actually is anyone reasonably successful with this, our country falls, because then the corporations can wreak havoc on all of us individually and collectively.
And they'll die on this woke hill at the same time that they have people who don't want to be making their plushies over in China are stuck there doing it in locations they would rather not be in.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. We're gonna after this stream, just so you understand, it's coming up here in like 7 minutes. We're gonna be premiering. So I'm doing a real lightning round, not a Valiant lightning round, on these super chats. But you're going to be going over to that. I'm going to have more streams on this, going through the entire complaint. I'm going to do a line by line read through of all 77, right? We'll do that on a future stream. I'll do this solo stream to get that one done. But thank you to all my panel for being here. Really appreciate that. And let's get these super chats. Frederick says, rest in peace, Jerry Springer. Yes, absolutely. Adam Warlock says, I have to correct you, Andrew. A school near Disney facility might force in a distance, according to one list of certain offenders. Oof. Okay, we're going to move on. I'm already limited on that one. Troy Neenan says WB, Comcast, and Nintendo will back DeSantis for sure. There's all other businesses that want to do business. If you want to do business, you're welcome in the state of Florida. If you want to impose your woke bullshit and run a tyranny, literally run a corporate kingdom in Florida, that's not welcome. The government is for the people of Florida. It is not for Disney's woke politics to be enforced on everybody. They're free to have that speech, but they cannot use a fake government entity to badger you into those beliefs.
Universal might actually pay for the lawyers for the independent counsel for Florida on this one.
That'd be great. Remember when people used to fear Disney lawyers? This is some sloppy work. Intern level or Iger is going too far to defend his legacy. What is going on in the House of Mouse? Here's an important note. None of those are in-house counsel. None of them. They're all outside counsel. All their big work is outside, because I'm going to tell you right now, their inside counsel is actually a fucking joke. They're just little peon slaves that are Disney pixie dusters that actually are paid really shit wages. I'm not kidding you. I'm not even going to say what the wages are, because I know people that work there, and I want to respect those individuals that are my friends, that even though they're very lost, right? They're paid very little. And so in-house, that's a secret about Disney and DVC, by the way. These people are jokes. They're the washout lawyers, right, that are working in-house. They farm their big work out to outside firms, which a lot of other corporations do, because it keeps their costs low, their internal costs low, right? But those lawyers in the House of Mouse are not the best inside the House of Mouse. E137Dio says, Andrew left some comments on Legal Eagle's video referencing a response video to him, which were promptly deleted. You know that. Tell him to stop being such a vag. No reply yet. Is anybody surprised? Nope. He's never going to respond to me, because he vigorously would censor his comments. And look, I'll actually say this. I'll actually say this for anybody in every channel. The way you run your channel is your job. Your channel is like your business, right? If I don't want woke bullshit on my channel, I'm going to get rid of the woke bullshit, right? Now, I'll say this about my channel. If you're going to be a troll, be a good troll. Do not be a trash tier troll. If you're just out here spamming the same shit, the non-less shit, the mindless shit, it's not going to fly on my channel. But if you give me a reasoned argument, a detailed, reasonable argument, even if you're an opposing viewpoint, I will listen to it. But don't just spam the same stuff in the chat. That's going to get you yeeted. Bucky says some safety inspections are coming their way. You know it.
Burning dragons.
Does Randy Frine, the sponsor of the bill, comment saying this was to target Disney for what they said on the matter? It doesn't relate to Disney. It relates to the district. That's the whole thing about the First Amendment argument, why it kind of misses. All the actions were at the district, which is not Disney. District, not Disney. Just get that out. District is not Disney. So that just defeats that argument out of hand. Brandon says, daily reminder to duck Disney. Absolutely fisting they are taking right now. Isekai is life. I will watch with popcorn and enjoying it. Absolutely. Britt says, Disney cannot fail an audit harder than the Pentagon. IRC, they are missing another $2 million. Jeez. Oof.
That's true.
Steamboat Willie will enter the public domain in 2024. Really? Oh, nice.
I knew it was coming
That
up.
soon?
I didn't think it was that fast. Maybe so.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. IWD says it's not that they misunderstand their voting base. They're absolutely contemptuous of their voting base. Some of these clowns have said things in the private like, I'd rather 4 terms of Biden than 1 term of a right-wing populist. That's just really missing the mark entirely. And last, Jay says resolution number 640 is exactly what Disney and other businesses want. They want to be open and blame the local government. Yeah, they blame the people that are saving them, right? And ignore the people that are absolutely hurting them. Oh, yeah, and then a couple here. Tank Rat says, this is true capitalism at work. When a company becomes big, it will fail due to its own weight. How many major companies have collapsed because of the huge overhead they created? Disney laying off 700 SPM. Was it just 700, or aren't they laying off a little more?
7,000.
Right?
Oh, 700 at ESPN specifically, but 7,000 total. And the media also misrepresents that because they say 7,000 by the beginning of summer. What they don't say is they could fire more people after that.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, so it's an open book for firing at Disney. YouTubers will shill Disney and go pay to go to the parks. Shill Disney park channels don't care one whit about children as long as they get free tickets, and they don't care about the truth. If you see what goes on, they literally do not care about the facts of this case. They don't care about those points, which is why you guys stick around. When this drops into my next video, the premiere, you guys can share that out and fight Diz Twitter, fight the Pixie Dusters back by getting the facts out there, propagating the facts over their feelings. It's going to help us win this battle. And what also is going to help is you guys subscribing to good channels like Valiant Renegade and like WDW Pro. Both these guys are my great friends. They're my allies, not in a weird LGBTQA++ way, but in a very, very based way. These guys have had my back. They've been committed to the facts and truth, which is really all I ask of any channel on YouTube. But so really, I want to say thank you to you guys.
Thank you for having us. And this Mexican Iron Man guy, I think maybe he should get into YouTube at some point.
He's not a YouTuber.
I think he should. I'm just saying, you know, we can
Not a
work on
YouTuber.
Esperanza springs eternal.
I like being the guy. I like being a producer, and occasionally I'll go on the stream.
And this last one here from Frogger Knight, with Disney making claims they're basically Grizzly Creek, this affect the bonds like Florida avoid them. I've talked about this ad nauseum. This is something that I think only I've said. Yeah. They are endangering their bonds by saying that they were Reedy Creek. By saying this was an alter ego, they are literally endangering their bonds, endangering their bond counsel, endangering the administrators that signed off on these guarantees and said, no, we're certifying this is really a public entity. Everyone who signed off on that is now shitting bricks. And they're also probably looking about their offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. They're like, okay, how much is a passport in St. Kitts? I'm looking at that right now if I'm the counsel over there, because this shit could really get them in trouble.
Plus, these are uncertain times in the bond markets right now.
Absolutely. And the last thing you want to do is downgrade your bond rating. That would really screw you. All right, guys. That being said, we're going to wrap this one up. We're going to head over to the premiere. Check that out. I'll be in the live chat, and I will catch you guys all later. We'll be more on this for the next week. Until then, stay based.